latest story?
I'm going to do my best to not use the O word because I find it pretty offensive.
The O word? Obesity. We're to say this like an N word, like I get why there's an N word, right? R word, kind of, but O word being a clinical medical term, O word is crazy. O word is like this. That's a level of uptight that would suggest that this lady might need to go home and have an O word in her alone time. You know what I mean? What is up, everyone? It is Chewburger84 here with another episode of One Nerd All Things. Today is going to be a fun one because we're going to be nerding out about the human body as we look at this debate that happened a few weeks ago, which on one side is Jillian Michaels, who you probably recognize from screaming at big people on treadmills until they cried on The Biggest Loser, a weight loss transformation TV show during the 2000s, I think. I remember watching this in high school era, a show that probably wouldn't get made in 2026 versus 20 randos who represent the body positivity movement. So it's topics that I find incredibly interesting because of my background and my personal history. So I have been single digit body fat, jacked. I have been 160 kilos of pure fat. Right now I'm somewhere in between. I'm wearing my LeChonk t-shirt for a reason. I'm still in chonky boy status, but I'm working my way down towards Chad. So we'll get there, folks. We'll get there. I also have a bachelor's degree of exercise science, kind of outdated. I haven't used it since university, but I have, I'm in a science-based field at the moment, and I love the human body. I love what it can do. I love the research about how we can extend human lifespan, and also believe that, we should be considering our health despite what I've done to my own body. So I'm looking forward to this. First of all, a huge thank you to all of you who have been liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting notifications bells. It's really helping me out at the start of my channel. 29 subscribers already. Thank you to each and every one of you. And I hope if this is your first time that you'll subscribe here today as well. But let me earn it first, ladies and gentlemen. Let me entertain you, as they say. And let us just jump straight into this debate.
That obesity is not healthy and pretending it is puts lives at risk.
Correct. Okay, so how does this work?
If you want to be the first debater, get to the chair.
Are you going to run?
In 3, 2, 1.
The irony. Okay. Can we talk about how funny it is that for a debate about positivity, which involves perhaps some larger people, that you make them run to the middle and that the first person to get to the chair looks arguably like the leanest person in the room? Like, that feels like 1 point to Jillian Michaels before she opens her mouth, right? I mean, you have to admit, there's an irony in here that's pretty hilarious.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so what's this latest
I'm
story?
going to do my best to not use the O word because I find it pretty offensive.
The O word? Obesity. To say this like an N word, like I get why there's an N word, right? R word, kind of, but O word being a clinical medical term, O word is crazy. O word is like this. That's a level of uptight that would suggest that this lady might need to go home and have an O word in her alone time. You know what I mean? To say that obesity is an offensive term, okay, but it's a medical term. It's like basically saying, hey, I'm really upset that you said I have cancer. If you're offended by it, I can't say that I understand it. I can understand if you were questioning the validity of the clinical measurement and how, depending on the individual, it may not be a perfect metric, because the way that they sort of classify someone as obese is they have this calculation that has height and weight versus each other, spits out a number, and if you are under 30, you kind of in the normal-ish range. Over 30, they basically say you're obese. And then as you climb higher, you get into morbidly obese, and that's where you really have a lot of health complications. It's an imperfect number in the modern world because we do have, testosterone, we have gyms, we have people who are pushing the boundaries of muscular hypertrophy, which basically means you're going to have people who are technically obese but might have 8% body fat because they've just got far, far, far more muscle than they probably should on a small frame, especially if they're a short king. You know what I mean? If you're a shorter lab that's jacked, you could be obese while on the cover of Men's Health, right? It's an imperfect metric, sure. If that was your debate, okay. But to be offended by it is crazy.
So I'm going to use fat-bodied.
If a doctor said to me, like, I don't know how to break this to you, Chew, but you're fat-bodied, and with a name like Chewburger84, I'm not surprised. I would actually be more pissed at that. To say fat-bodied is nuts. Fat-bodied is, I'd be more offended by that than obesity. I don't understand.
As we talk.
Okay.
Do you understand why people find it harmful and triggering?
Overweight and obese is literally just having too much body fat. It has nothing to do with the quality of the person.
A real dorky part of me wants to say, well, technically it's not true because overweight is actually a combination of mass and gravity, right? Because weight is different to mass, but let me not be that dork because that would be very dorkish to do.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Are we going to debate the claim?
Yeah,
Or
I just
are
wanted
we
to.
Gonna,
Yeah, I wanted to clarify though the
are we going
language.
to
Coming in
pretend like
hot
I'm a
with that.
3 and you're my mommy, telling me how to talk?
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Rattled her early.
So the claim that you're saying is that it is inherently unhealthy to live in a fat body.
Yes.
It's inherently unhealthy to have excess body fat, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Where are you getting that information from?
Science.
Okay. There are dozens.
Oh, I like the fact check. I want to read this. So according to the World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease, excess body fat, particularly at levels classified as obesity. Yep, type 2 diabetes, of course, cardiovascular disease, cancers, high blood pressure, premature death. Body fat is not the only determinant of health. Physical activity, diet quality, genetics, and metabolic markers also play major roles. Very true. But I mean, it's overwhelming at this point that being significantly overweight in terms of excess body fat is unbelievably bad for the body, right? Not just for, you've got excess inflammatory markers in the system, which takes a toll all on the body. You have increased pressure on the heart and the organs. You have less oxygenation of core tissues, which can lead to all kinds of complications. There are certain cancers that are absolutely linked with having a quote unquote fat body or overtly fat body, especially with visceral fat. So a lot of people think of fat as just those layers of adipose tissue that your girlfriend grabs onto when you're really going hard. When the truth is some of the more dangerous fat is the visceral fat, which you can't actually see on a person unless you have something like a DEXA scan where you're looking in and it's wrapped around their organs. You know what I mean? It's nowhere near the same level, but it's definitely an issue. So it's cool they have these fact checks. I should watch more Jubilee debates.
Of MRT trials that show having excess body fat, dozens, is causal, not correlated.
No, that's not true. There is no disease that
Absolutely
just
true.
fat-bodied people get.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Yeah, I see what you're trying to say. There's like people get diabetes that don't have excess body fat, sure. But if you look at it from a numbers game, like type 1 diabetes is a genetic, whereas type 2 diabetes is well overrepresented in people who are clinically obese, for sure. It's not a great argument to make for this young lady.
But obesity lends itself to all-cause mortality across the board. Have
Oh,
you
sure
heard
it
of
does.
something called adiposopathy? Okay, so you
Oh,
know
wow.
it means
Deep words.
literally sick fat.
Yeah, yeah.
And you understand how it works?
Because the fat
Okay, tell
cells
me how it
bleed out
works.
when they get too
So it's
big.
additional layer of fat in the stomach area.
No, that's not what
It's
it is.
adipose tissue.
It works as follows. When we eat too much food that has energy that we're not utilizing, the body needs to put that energy somewhere, right? So it puts it in fat cells. So it puts it in initially subcutaneous fat cells, a little bit of visceral fat, which is fat around the organs. And at first you have hyperplasia, which means we're recruiting new little fat cells,
Yep.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing up to a point. Now, the issue is that once you can no longer recruit more fat cells, right, you get hypertrophy. So the fat cells start to expand. And this is exceptionally dangerous because what
Most
ends
of
up
that's true.
happening is the blood vessels
Yeah, it's
get
technically true.
outpaced.
There's a few things
So the
I'd
fat
tweak if it was
cells
me,
can't
but
get
still.
oxygen, and they start screaming, literally. And when they do, they release
Oh, look at the reactions from the crowd.
cytokines, inflammatory proteins.
I am offended
right?
by science.
I want to
Oh,
pause.
no, of course you do want to pause. Because
This is actually a very strong move from a debating standpoint. Like the way that she's gone, I've made this person very nervous. She's intimidated by me, so I'm going to go at it to keep her off balance. It's an unfair technique, but effective as hell.
it's irrefutable. You don't even know what I'm talking about. So
Jillian, okay, first of all, I don't appreciate the way that you're speaking to me right now. You called me out for just trying to understand the languaging
science.
and saying I was talking to like a 3-year-old, but I felt like I was talking to you very respectfully. You're talking to me
That
very
lady looked upset
disrespectfully
on
right
her
now.
behalf.
here's the thing.
And I want to,
You're telling me you understand it, but you don't understand it. You fundamentally didn't describe it accurately.
but what
Poor
I
thing's getting
understand is
cooked right
that
now.
What's lipotoxicity?
I don't want to talk about, I am not, okay, here, I'm going to say
Again, another classic debate technique, right? Is that when someone's kind of keeping it about something broad, that if you go really deeply specific, and a lot of time it's not even like super beneficial to the point, hers is kind of, but it really helps to just throw someone off because you go, oh, you don't know about this one niche thing that only a small percentage of humans know about? That means you know nothing, right? Super effective, kind of douchey
this
to
straight
do
up.
though.
I am not a medical doctor, okay? So I'm not going to talk to you about medical diagnosis because that's outside my scope, and I'm fully
That's the
willing.
claim.
Hey, I'm fully willing to be wrong. What I am here to talk to you about is the fact that people in fat bodies are irreparably harmed going into the medical system every single day because of the term, the O word.
So
To say that they're clinically harmed, like all of them, I don't think so. I think there's definitely a mental toll of being challenged with when you are unhealthy, and then especially when it may represent choices that you have made, right? And I know there are some medical conditions where make this harder. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dismissing everyone's personal experience, but it is a hard thing to hear. Like when I was in with my doctor and he was like, look, man, I've seen you go up and down for years now, but ultimately you're at a point where you're over 40 years old now. And if you stay as big as you are, it is going to kill you faster, and you're doing it to yourself. It's confronting, and you can be offended by that, or you can see in that person, hopefully you've got the right doctor. If they're a genuine dick, find someone else. But they're generally doing this because they want you to live, right? And to say that more people are harmed is crazy, especially if you look at the absolute rocketing of GLP-1 inhibitors, right? So your Ozempics, your, what are the brands? Mounjaro, Wegovy, all of these things. They're so popular now because they're very easy to do. And a lot of people want to go on them because they know that there are very inherent health benefits of being leaner, right? Not necessarily skinny, but leaner or non-obese. So I don't agree with that claim at all. I think there are some people that are offended. I think there are some people that probably had within them some sadness or shame or fear surrounding, like, because everyone looks in a mirror every morning when you get up. All right. And I've been lean and gone, oh, yeah, today is my day, looking good, bruh. That hasn't been a case for a decade. But I also have had those days where I look in the mirror and just go, what are you doing? Like, what is this? Right? Grab things and like jump up and down and things smack together and then you twerk on a Nicki Minaj video. But ultimately, like, it doesn't help to just deny that's not a thing. But when someone else points it out to you, you know it. But facing that is hard. But you can't say that it's damaging to someone to make them realize that they're either already unwell or on a path to becoming incredibly unwell that may kill them earlier. You think that's easy for the doctor to say that to your face? No way.
that's what you want to litigate?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not the claim though.
The idea that fat-bodied people are inherently unhealthy is, I believe, incorrect.
You're wrong.
No,
Science
I'm not wrong.
Robust amount of
forever.
data.
I'm
You're
not
not-
wrong.
okay, so
Because
let
you
me
Okay,
can't
so
finish
the
look-
red
you
flags
can't look
means
at-
Let me finish the
they
Let me
think
thought.
this
finish
chick
my thought
sucks.
first, please. You can't look at a person's body and tell whether or not tell their health status.
So
Well, I mean, you can get a ballpark, but in saying that, I've seen some people that have shocked me in competitions and that, where you see a guy and just go, oh man, this guy's going to blow out so early, or a boxing match or a jiu-jitsu is a great example. And you will see someone, you just go, oh, this guy's going to gas out in 60 seconds. And then they're the last one on the mat. You go, oh my God, so you can make some assumptions, but you can't necessarily tell, sure. But there is a correlation for a reason. Like normally people who have very visible expanded waist to hip ratios is a fun way of saying, muffin top or bigger, is generally a pretty good indicator that they're not going to be that healthy on the inside.
that is an endocrine organ. When it overgrows, it does wreak havoc in the body.
Sure.
I didn't finish telling you what happens. So when the oxygen can't get to those fat cells, they'll die and they'll rupture And then the immune system starts dumping macrophages in to try to clean it up.
But do you know what's
But they
even more
can't clean it
unhealthy
up.
is weight cycling. And as we talked about earlier,
It's a very real problem. So weight cycling is obviously when people crash diet, they follow some insane plan, they hold themselves to such an unbelievably high standard, they lose 10 kilos and they go, this is fantastic. And then they go right back to what they were doing. And the body, especially fat cells, kind of have this memory, which is very long. It's, depending on the research, anywhere from months to several years. It's way easier to put fat back on if you've been fat recently. Like fat cells remember. So it's definitely unhealthy, but it's not unhealthier than being long-term obese. Because I think if you're taking gaps where you're fasting or whether you are doing calorie restriction and you're doing periodic exercise, if you did that multiple times per year, I don't know, there's an argument to be made that those bursts would give the body a break. Both are bad, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's worse. I think I'm still on Jillian's team on that point.
only except for your
That is
your
not
people who
the claim. If you want to talk about that claim, we can. The claim is
So then what are
that
you supposed
having-
to do though? So let's say this person is in a fat body and they are inherently unhealthy, right? We're telling they're unhealthy because they're in this
the
fat
vast
body.
majority
What are
of
they supposed to
people will
do?
be more
They're supposed to, first of all, try the hard road, which is go to the gym, eat as clean as you can at the start. Don't try and be perfect, right? It's insane to do so. If that doesn't work out, there are a million different types of medications. There are stimulant-based, which have cardiovascular risk for sure. That basically elevate your overall caloric expenditure and cardiovascular output. In other words, make you work harder. I've done that. It's basically legal speed. I didn't sleep for like 2 months and my blood pressure went to the moon, right? Don't recommend it. Well, actually, it's fun when you're on it because like you could literally, chew through a tire of a car because you have so much energy. It's insane. It does feel like being on hard drugs, but I wouldn't necessarily advocate for that one. There are some which are neuro blockers, which can basically literally just clamp down on addictive behaviors. There's a lot of risks with those as well, a lot of side effects. And then obviously now we're into the modern generation of your, GLP-1 inhibitors or your semaglutide inhibitors, like I said before, Ozempic or Wegovy, Mounjaro, unbelievably popular, definitely have results, but again, with their own different sets of dangers. So they do suppress the food noise. They do make it so that you are full for longer because it literally slows down the transport of food through your gut for a longer period of time, making you feel more full, and you don't want to eat. And if you do eat too much, you will feel like crap, you will vomit, blah, blah, blah. Does have some inherent risks of, I think it's ocular stroke. Please fact check me on this. And also, what was it? Certain types of abdominal cancers. So none of them are perfect. I mean, obviously, if you can do number one, that is the best one. Work out, go to the gym. Muscle-based stuff is better. So strength training is better than cardio in that sense, but both are important. One for cardiovascular self. But the other one as well, even just for looks, like if you're doing cardiovascular by itself, you will lose a heck of a lot of fat on the way down, but you'll also use a heck of a lot of muscle if you're not doing strength-based resistance training on the way down. So that's what you do. That's what they're supposed to do. One is really, really, really hard, right? Everyone sort of hates it at the start. The ones that stay healthy forever are the ones that see the benefits of it or just enjoy it. It's a hard thing to do, no denying that, but that's what they're supposed to do, to answer her question.
significantly more prone to all-cause mortality. For me,
Intentional weight loss fails 95 to 98% of the time.
Far too hard. There's no way
So
that's
what
true.
is the-
why though? You would probably know.
Here we go, fact check. I like it. There's no strong evidence supporting that. Research shows many people regain weight over time, but outcomes vary depending on how success is defined. One comprehensive review. Yeah, basically there's no facts behind that.
That's better than me.
Because weight is not an individualistic pursuit. You narrow it down
Yeah,
to
it
this
is.
idea that it's causal, like that they're just not trying hard enough. But that
I
is,
didn't say
Sometimes it is. I'd say most of the time it is. I mean, I know it sucks to hear, but it is true. Like, I mean, most people, it is a choice of, the couch, snacks, and watching The Boys on Amazon Prime, which I'm doing like literally right now. Awesome, super enjoyable, and really easy to do. Getting up at 5 o'clock, to go to the gym, to be back before your kids wake up, to be knackered after, you know, doing squats, then do that, then do a full day at work, then come home, be hungry the whole time, want to have sugar, want to have a lift. It's hard. It's absolutely hard.
It's multifactorial, unquestionably. A lot of people lose weight. The problem, right, is that they put it back on. Are we in agreement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Why do you think?
Okay, we got to pause there.
God damn
She got the
it!
boot
All right,
mid-stream.
Sorry.
John, I'm getting somewhere.
Yeah, but you
All right.
voted out by the
Okay, cool. So
majority.
you get
Please
voted
return
out.
to your
I like
seat.
this format.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay. So what's
I
your
have lived in
story?
a fat body for like as long as I can remember. And I've known Mary.
Is this a consensus thing in the body positivity movement, the fat body, or I don't understand why this is a preferred term. Like for me personally, my personal preference, they're welcome to theirs. I would hate this to be so you're a fat bodied person. I'm like, do you want to go outside, bro? Yeah. It's way more offensive to me.
Many fat people. And I don't think any of us, the people that I know, I can only speak to the people that I know, I don't think any of us are pretending that we're okay with it.
Okay.
What I want to say here is I live with autoimmune disorders, I live with chronic illness, and I'm also neurodivergent.
Right.
And this is, the body positivity movement has made it so that I can tolerate this life. I can.
What's the part that makes it harder to tolerate? Is it neurodivergent? So she's like on the, I don't even know what the politically correct thing is to call her. She's somewhere on the spectrum. So she's probably like Asperger's or autistic, etc., or some other one that I apologize for not knowing. But I would argue that sometimes it may be more suitable for neurodivergent people. And again, I don't have a lot of research on this one. But I would imagine that having structure, there are definitely some people that having very clear structure for a dietary plan to say, from a nutritionist who specializes in not only weight loss, but perhaps neurodivergent disorders, to say, okay, Wednesday, eat this at lunchtime. Thursday, eat that at this time. This time, get up, do some sort of exercise, whatever. Having a plan, having that in, having structure, I know from a lot of neurodivergent research tends to help. But again, I don't really have much strength in crossover research between physical activity and dietary consistency, I suppose. But yeah, I'll be curious to see what she says.
Find ways to thrive, even still. But I'm not pretending that.
So, but she's also acknowledging that like her life is harder being a fat-bodied person, right? That sounds like what she's saying is this like having body positivity out there is helping me thrive in this sense, but it's coping with something that's already very difficult. So, I mean, being the fat-bodied person, as she wants to call it, is a harder thing to do. It's probably creating extra stresses on someone who is, I think she said, autoimmune compromised. So yeah, I don't know that the original claim that she's trying to debate here, which is body positivity is potentially harmful or being obese is harmful, makes a point for her.
This doesn't bother me. And by bother, I mean that it doesn't hurt to carry my weight. I'm willing to concede with you that
I think she means hurt
carrying around extra
mentally.
weight is harder. It is. But it must be done.
No, it doesn't have to be done.
Okay. Tell me more, please.
Well, tell me why you think it must be done.
Because I've worked really hard to not have this.
What does that mean?
Good question. That's what I was
you
going
beat
to ask.
yourself up in the gym or something?
I love it when I watch things and I go, but what about this? And then the person asks it. God, it makes me happy.
Oh, I don't. That's not fun.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to understand what you mean.
Yeah, no shit.
What I
it's not
mean
fun.
is that I grew up with a number of undiagnosed conditions, and even
Like what?
I can think back to like middle school, and I couldn't keep up when the PE teacher would make us like run laps, and I'm like, this is physically aching me, and I didn't understand why. And
Because it's practice. Like I get that there are certain musculoskeletal conditions that would be absolutely the case. You know, I mean, if you have, what's it called? Is it adolescent osteo? No, it's not osteoarthritis, but there are conditions where they do have like literal just aches in the joints or growing pains, used to call it once upon a time, or physical stresses that just make the body physically hurt. But not, it's so small. I'd be surprised if you had it. But it literally the first time you work out is the worst. The first time you get DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, it feels like death and you never want to go back. Everyone remembers their first real leg day and it sucks. And it's the reason why there are so many pigeon leg gym bros out there, because even they, after all that time, go, this hurts, this sucks, and I don't want to do it, right? But the more you do it, as crazy as it sounds, as long as you are moving correctly and you are not, overloading smaller ancillary muscles, you get better at it. So if you're not working out much and then someone throws you to say, all right, man, go run 60 laps, it's going to hurt. It's going to suck. So, I mean, I don't know this chick's diagnostics, so I can't tell you for sure which one of those it is. But from a percentage representation out there about the likelihood that she had one of those conditions that makes it like this, let me just push X to doubt.
I didn't understand why, because I grew up with a single parent, undocumented single parent. We were...
This is what pisses me off so much about a lot of these stories. They're so personalized, but so much irrelevant stuff. Like the neurodivergent thing, I guess it makes her experience harder. Sure, doesn't help the debate. Undocumented parent, trying to throw a political point out there at the moment. Obviously something that's a big discussing point in America. Nothing to do with this topic. It's frustrating to me when people bring this kind of stuff in, because I think in the circles that they're in, they understand that in their echo chambers, people are going to come at them less because they're like, oh, I understand your thing, so I'm going to give you special treatment because you've identified as having an undocumented parent or because you are neurodivergent. And I want all these concessions made from society because I'm identifying as different and I want you to treat me better because I'm saying these things to you. Whereas I don't feel like that's really the way it should be worked. We should treat everyone exactly the same. Using these points, these identity politics points, really frustrating to me when we're talking about science and facts.
Bound to the medical system that we had access to.
I understand.
I've done what I needed to do a number of times to try to lose weight.
What did you try? Tell me.
I've worked out at the gym. I've tried to do Pilates. Even yoga. Okay. Even yoga hurts me.
Did you change your diet?
Okay, so the exercise causes you pain.
The
due to
exercise
autoimmune
causes
condition. Okay, no problem.
Right.
I'm with you.
Dieting, for example.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think that food makes very much sense to me in my neurodivergent brain.
If you have food, you live. And if you don't have the food, you die. If you have too much food, you get big. If you don't have enough food, you get small, right? So I feel like we're leaning on the diagnosis a bit too much. But again, I'm not living in this person's body. But for me, literally judging this debate and by default judging the debater, I don't know that this makes a point.
This is where mechanistic eating actually helps people who are neurodivergent, and
this is
the
what I'm saying.
research supports that
Okay.
because it doesn't have to make sense to you.
Okay.
In other words, it's like you eat on these schedules and you eat these foods and you eat this much, hence the concept, right, of
Hard pass.
mechanistic.
I don't like that.
I understand that you don't like it, but you'll have to decide which you don't like more.
There you go.
Carrying the weight or the mechanistic eating, because it actually could be helpful. There are other ways.
Look at the sheer, the science makes me angry. She's not listening for the feelings and she's ignoring my personal lived experience and she's just relying on peer-reviewed science. It makes me cranky.
But you told me you tried them.
I tried a whole lot. There's a lot of other things to be concerned about. I'm also a social worker. I work with youth. There are a lot of...
Let's go back to you.
Yes.
Yeah, well played.
I'm saying for me, right? There are many things that I'm more concerned about than my weight.
What's the choice?
My body is not the most interesting thing about me.
You just brought up your weight and said, I don't see a way out of this.
Yeah.
I've tried
Acknowledging the
And I
problem.
just,
I'm
I
telling
take
you
care
that-
of it in the ways that I can, and I've found works for me.
But you just told me it didn't work for you.
But it works.
I just realized I forgot bariatric surgery as an option, right? Literally the old stomach staple or other versions of that as an intervention as a worst case scenario if you tried everything else. My bad.
To an extent,
You just told me it didn't work for you.
it works to an extent.
Then this is an irrelevant conversation if you're happy with it.
I stand on 10 toes down, that we are not pretending that
But
this
there's
is
healthy
okay.
at any size. There are absolutely elements and aspects of the movement that do put that messaging into the universe.
Yeah.
I've had those debates.
You've said,
I've had numerous
I want
debates with
to-
people who are body positivity activists that try to tell me that they can be healthy at any size.
No.
And it's just not the case.
It's true. And it is damaging as well. You know, I mean, I've said this before. A good friend will come to you and say, look, man, are you doing all right? I look, I've known you. You're putting on weight. I'm worried that because I love you, you're going to die earlier. And that means less years on this planet that we're going to get to hang out. And I don't want that, right? I don't want your kids to grow up without a dad. Like, how can I help? Are you good? You know what I mean? A bad friend will see you making incredibly poor choices and then go, yes, girlfriend, keep doing that, right? I don't think it helps them. I think that you are an enabler, not a friend, if you say those things. And when you join these echo chambers to tune out the world, because it's easier to hear people saying, no, you're fantastic the way you are, it sets up these false expectations that the rest of the world is going to be like that. Hills are going to stay where they are. They're going to continue to be challenging for you to get up. Whether you like it or not, and I've certainly faced challenges with this, it is hard. People are going to judge you based on your appearance, right? In my career that I'm in right now, I had one manager where, look at me telling my personal story after ripping on someone else's, but it's true. I had a manager who literally, when it was my turn for a promotion, told me to my face, I don't think you're the guy for this job, right? And I demanded an opportunity to prove it, where I said, give me the job. If I'm no good at it, kick me out in 3 months. Demolished it. In that time, I actually lost a ton of weight, about 40 kilos, got shredded, got jacked, and found out years later when this guy all of a sudden respected me and gave me the job. Behind my back, he'd been telling people that, look, there's no way this guy can be good at his job because if he treats his body like this, there's no way he can be effective. Now, I think that's fucked up. Of course I do. But I can also understand that from his perspective, as a guy who is fitness-based, who is someone who takes ridiculous amounts of pride in his body, probably to the other extreme, that ultimately to him, he would think that, well, this person doesn't have discipline. This person doesn't have the ability to stick with anything. So why should I trust him in his job without any further information? It's bullshit that happened, but it's real, right? The dating pool that's out there, especially when you are in a Tinderverse where people only have one real thing to look at, and that is you, your photo, your body. People have physical preferences. And let's be real about it. If you are really analyzing a long-term relationship and you get into something when you're in your 20s or 30s and you're thinking about having kids and what you want to have for them and you want to be around for a long time and you want a partner you're going to be married to for 30, 40, 50 years in a perfect world, you don't want them to die early and then be heartbroken in later life and trying to remarry in your early 60s. Sounds terrible to me. It's insane to think that the rest of the world is going to change to make you feel better about yourself. And to have an echo chamber of people who are telling you all the time these false realities about how the real world looks, I'm really sorry, but they're setting you up for failure and disappointment, right? And it sucks. It is hard. It is absolutely hard. No denying that. But I think that they are doing you a disservice and they are encouraging you to not only potentially put yourself physically at more risk, but by going out into the world with these false expectations, all right, about the real world, you are going to be perpetually disappointed. And that sets you up for depression, possible eating disorders as a coping method of dealing with that, which I've been down as well, right? You wouldn't think it looking at me, but I actually had a period where I actually dealt with bulimia. Like I actually did as a method of coping with stress and being so shamed about the way that I ate, I would stick fingers down my throat and vomit, right? To the point that I realized after that, and I was having thoughts of, let's say, ending the ride, that I knew it was time to go and get help, right? Went and got a counselor, got a nutritionist, put everything together, got on board because the world that I was in, I was not dealing with it healthy. But that's where that takes you. If you get yourself in those echo chambers, it can be incredibly harmful when you leave them. And you're going to spend most of your day, I'm assuming, outside of that echo chamber. So I think it's dangerous. I really do.
And I disagree with that.
And I can use
Shame.
We
You've
have to
used shame as a
pause.
vehicle.
I'm sorry, we have to pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Ooh,
Please return to your
Gonskis.
seat.
She made it too personal. Okay, who we got now?
What I'm curious about is if you care about people's health and you have people in front of you, and I'm sure you have people online who are telling you that the body positivity movement, or I prefer body liberation, body justice, body acceptance, body blah,
Oh, the finger snaps thing. This is not theater camp, sweetheart.
all the good shit that we like
Okay.
actually increases their health, then I
Artificial mental health, maybe I'm with you for now.
don't understand your debate. Like, what are you debating if the fat people are
Physical
telling you
health,
it makes their life better?
the way the heart
I'm
beats.
debating their physical health.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm debating the people who claim
Jillian.
that you can be physically healthy
Yeah.
at any size.
They're all
Okay,
relying on mental
do you
health.
think you can be physically healthy and mentally unhealthy at the same time?
course.
Of course, but that's not the claim.
Okay, sure. I think the part where I get stuck, I am a mental health professional.
They're all kind
I
of in
work
that
with
space,
people
aren't they?
from a body liberation standpoint. I work with people in all shapes of bodies. What I know to be true from my experience is that body positivity, body liberation helps people take care of themselves. It's very difficult.
No, it helps them set up a framework for mentally dealing with what they're going through. It's like, you know what? This is probably a better analogy that I probably should have thought about in a different time. It's why I love reacting to things, because it sparks ideas, right? Cancer support groups or support groups for families of people going through cancer. Like, you are dealing with a health crisis, and having a group of people that you can talk to about that, of course that's beneficial. And if that's what they're getting from this, that there's a group of people saying, hey, look, we're all going through this together. Let's be healthy. Hey, don't go to McDonald's. No, get that chicken. We'll get on a FaceTime with you. We'll keep you accountable. Whatever that might be, that would be fantastic, right? If that's what they're getting out of it, there's a point to make that having that chamber of people to help you deal with something that you're going through. And this is a kind of illness, right? Being obese is defined now as a medical illness, a chronic medical illness. So yeah, I mean, I think that I can see the point she's trying to make, but it's the wrong one overall because it is physically very damaging.
To understand why you think somebody is going to take better care of a body they hate. Like, why body
Because they won't hate it as
positivity
much if
would
it gets
not
better.
inspire people to.
Well, maybe not. I mean, things like anorexia nervosa and, people who feel like they're in the wrong body or have false perceptions of how they really look one way or the other. Dysmorphia, that's what I look. Body dysmorphia, very real condition. In those senses, sure, they may hate themselves even if they're jacked. And I'm sure there are people like that in the gym that are there at 2 a.m. in the morning thinking it's not enough, I need to be stronger, I need to be thinner. Of course, there's extreme versions of that. But no, I think you love your body more if it's in better shape, of course.
To take better care of
You're
their bodies.
strawmanning my argument. I never said you should hate your body. In fact,
No, you
should.
didn't.
Okay, so I don't think that. What I think is that there are people in the movement
Yeah.
who have co-opted healthy at any size, and it went from access to healthcare
Okay.
to quite literally meaning for them that you can be healthy at any size, and
Yeah,
that's
that's not
not true.
Okay. I mean, the studies show that if you're very, 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 very thin or your body is very, 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 very big, it is more difficult to be healthy. That is absolutely
But
true.
then you agree
Yeah,
with me on this point.
yeah.
I don't, because I
no, you just
don't
kinda
think body
did.
positivity is the dangerous thing. I think
No, the being the fat thing, or too thin is the unhealthy thing, right? And encouraging people to do that is dangerous and unhealthy.
hatred of fat bodies and people hating themselves and people living in self-loathing because they've been taught that their body is the wrong shape. That's the danger.
Both can be true at once. So let's look at this, right? So the
Okay.
first thing we would want to
there a
do,
cup there?
obviously, is incentivize somebody. So it's like, okay, what's the why that's going to allow you to tolerate the how? But hold on. That's the positive. That's the inspiration piece.
I can tell you now from having been very fat and having been very lean, after you've been very fat for a long time, like you definitely go into a place and you expect, no one's going to look at me and, any differently. There's nothing special here. If you get hit on for the first time, like in a long time after you are now, in good shape, it feels good, right? When someone who hasn't seen you in a while and you see genuine shock in their eyes and go, oh my God, you look fantastic, right? You could go down the line of, I'm going to be insulted because they didn't say this when I was a big fatty. But, it's like that feels good. That's the positive reinforcement. That's the reward initially. Obviously, the feeling good, less back pain, being healthier, life is easier, but just physically moving around, breathing, sleeping better because you don't have sleep apnea from fat collapsing your airway. all of these things are benefits. They're the positives that come out of it. But, for me, getting to be able to fit in cool clothes. Like, there are so many cool nerd outfits right now that I've never cared about clothes, but there's so much cool nerd paraphernalia out there that one of the things I can't wait to do when I get down to that large kind of size again is being able to just go ham on fucking Pokemon shirts or whatever else is out there. Like, there's all little wins along the way that you feel real good about making that choice.
Okay. Now, here's the issue. If that piece, if all the things that they get out of it don't serve them as much as the things they're getting out of being overweight, and it does provide quite a lot, I can give you an example.
Wait.
Then they're not going, unconsciously, they will sabotage the change. Can I give you an example so you'll understand it? Okay, there was a kid that I worked with
Okay.
on Biggest Loser. He's 18 years old.
Oh, see, now she's getting into specifics. Yeah, it's good to have examples, but,
He
there's
shows
a
up with his
risk.
dad, Ken. They both lose like 100 pounds. They go home and they're visiting their family. It's the holidays. Doors fly open and there's mom. And mom starts crying. And she's not crying tears of joy. She feels like they're going to abandon her, like they broke the contract, like they've outgrown her. And she becomes sad and she withdraws.
Do you know what's funny is that this has happened in the body positivity movement a lot, and I can prove this. Meghan Trainor and Lizzo, right? They were two women that were held up by the body positivity movement. Adele as well, actually. All three of them were held up as, oh my God, look at them. They're rocking. They're proud of their big bodies. They're super famous. They're super successful. They're talented. And, music from Meghan Trainor, it's all about that bass, all that bass, right? But it was all about that bass until Monjaro, right? She's come out and talked about the fact that she's gone on Monjaro. She's lost a bunch of weight. She feels fantastic. She looks fantastic. Lizzo lost the weight. Adele lost the weight. All three of them look amazing, right? But all of these people in the body positivity movement tried to shame these people in saying that they betrayed them by making a choice to get healthy. Does that not seem fucking insane to you? Because it does to me, right? To sit there and say that I'm mad because you made yourself healthier and that I'm furious that you now seem so much happier than you have ever been. Now, it also leans into the fact that, when a tool was made available to make this journey easy, right? I think that, I don't know if Adele's admitted it. I think she has. I know Meghan Trainor has. Lizzo is still pretending she's not on something, right? Now, allegedly, I don't know how you say it, but let me, again, push X to doubt that that's natural process that she's gone through. If she has, all the credit in the world. What she's done is amazing and incredibly hard thing to do. But I would say this. If every body positivity person that's a fat-bodied individual or an obese individual, depending on what you want to call it, if they were all able to take a pill tomorrow that said, take this pill and you can have that lean body version of you that you were when you were a teenager, that you could be physically fit and that you would live another 10 years and life will not change for you in the sense of you don't have to go to the gym, you don't have to change your diet. It just becomes snap easy. Just for one small fee of $9.99 a month, you become the perfect human version of what you are now physiologically. Would you do it? What percentage of the population of the body positivity movement do you think folds tomorrow? I'm going to go super high 90s with a belligerent couple of 2 or 3% that 6 months after everyone else has joined the other team, they quit too. Because why would you not want those things? Why would you not want to be the optimal version of yourself physiologically that allows you to explore whatever it is that's your passion mentally? It gives you options. You can be whatever you want that way. There are some people who like being really, really big, and that's fine. They're comfortable with the fact that they may die earlier than perhaps they could have on the other end of the spectrum. There's always some outliers. There's always some extremists. But I would argue that if this technology, like the Monjaros of the world, continue to be developed, where do we end up? I think we end up with a far leaner society. If there is no side effects, it is cheap, it is affordable, it is easy, I think this movement dies. I really do, because being lean and fit in the modern era is hard. Why? Especially if you're in America, where a lot of these belts are held, and obviously a very large proportion of Americans are overweight. Why? Their food is poison, right? It is loaded up with corn syrup and sugar and every other inflammatory, big bulk, fat body ingredient that you need to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Work hours are getting longer. Stressors are getting harder mentally and physically out there. The pollution that is out there, the microplastics that are causing inflammation in our body every single day, all of these things make it harder and harder and harder to do. It is hard. But if someone made it easy with a magic pill, and I bet you it's not cheap, just like Mounjaro and that, the pharmaceutical industry is making bahillions out of these movements. This movement dies tomorrow when they invent that pill. Side effect free, cheap, affordable, no negative side effects. Body positivity is dead.
So what does
In
the
this-
18-year-old do?
In this version, you should be positive about your body, but you shouldn't over-represent positively an unhealthy body. Either end of the spectrum. Way too much muscle, way too little body fat, which is also incredibly dangerous. People stop menstruating. Men lose, sexual function because they literally aren't able to manufacture enough testosterone because their body fat is too low. Their intake of cholesterol is too low. Name one of these things, right? There's a whole different bunch of reasons why you get endocrine dysfunction and incredibly low body fat. And in my opinion, what's the point? If you've gone that far and you don't want to have lots and lots of sex with your crazy new body, what was the point?
He starts eating with mom again. What does the food provide him? A connection with his mom.
Yeah, that
That's
does
something
suck.
similar
That
with my
is
dad.
that is actually really hard. Like when I've been super committed and you're going out to places for dinner and you go, oh, not for me, thanks. People go, are you okay? Like just one cheesecake's fine. It is fascinating when people are used to you being a big boy, especially, and you refuse food. Fuck.
This is one of the ways that we connected. Food provides a lot of people with a lot of different things.
Yes, you cannot eat and not have your parasympathetic nervous system turn on at the same time. There's no such thing as not emotional eating. It's fine. It's good. It's great. Food is great.
But what I'm trying to show you is that
There's a reward loop there. I'm not sure of the point she's trying to make.
if, in some cases, the pain associated with continuing that defense mechanism is greater than the pain associated with change, it helps people change in some cases.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if life is hard to get around, if you can't get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, if you're being overlooked at jobs, if, name one of 100 things, right? If it is harder to be that than doing the gym and the exercise stuff, you're going to lose weight. There's
Not
Captain
in the
Obvious
long
point to me.
term. And I
Don't agree
struggle.
with you.
I-
Pause there.
agree with
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Ooh, that's the
Please
shortest
return
run of
to your
all.
seat.
She came in aggressive, but with not a lot of points.
So earlier you were speaking about how there's randomized control trials that
There's
show
MRG Mendelian
Science,
randomized
yep.
control trials that have now shown us that obesity is causal to all-cause mortality.
Okay,
Sure.
so I disagree with that. I think there's
I
going to be
mean,
a
I have-
problem with
I disagree with the best version of science we currently have. Now, it doesn't mean that it can't get better, but the way medical science evolves is that you will usually have small pilot studies, blinded, double-blinded, you name it. Then you evolve into randomized control trials, which are arguably the gold standard for running a medical intervention study. You have to have a significant amount of patients to enough power of the study to make a claim that something is statistically more dangerous or statistically more effective. It's the best medical research barrier, or what would we say here? Justification that we have, right? RCTs are the gold standard. When there are enough RCTs, that's when you get into meta-analysis research. So that is where you take all of those randomized controlled trials done by people all over the world, you smash them all together if they're all asking the same question, and you have this one giant data set. And they basically say, okay, if we look at across all of the studies across the spectrum, all of the best quality randomized controlled trials that are hopefully unbiased, that are hopefully unfinanced by political who have a vested interest, there is a lot of junk science out there, no doubt. However, from those meta-analysis studies, you can make broader conclusions. And from them, you go into medical guidelines. And that is basically what doctors at the end of that will basically get in their inbox. They will get it in the latest clinical journals. They will get that in the clinical guidelines, the textbooks, and that's taught at university. Randomized controlled trials is the best science we currently have. It doesn't mean that they can't be manipulated. It means that they have to be peer reviewed by people who don't have biases, by people who are independent. Yes, it can always be improved, but to say I don't agree with randomized controlled trials that might take 3 to 5 years for a longitudinal study, then another 2 years to basically go through data, statistics, peer review to make sure that everyone who reads it and runs the same science and models over and over with your numbers gets the same outcome before you can make those claims. Then you might get published, right? Good science, good randomized controlled trials don't just happen in a day. They take years of small pilot studies to justify it, getting funding, getting the research together, actually finding patient groups to volunteer for it if you're doing human studies. It's mad. To just say, well, I don't agree with that is insane.
Dozens.
Yeah.
Good
So,
fact
but
check
here's
them.
why I disagree. Because
You can disagree.
no, but
there
let me please let me hear me out.
dozens. Okay.
Okay. So the reason why is because registered dietitian school for 6 years.
Well, actually, I didn't even fact check, read this. A large meta-analysis, which is what I just explained to you. So welcome to the education. I love being a nerd. I really do. Found obesity linked to increased all-cause mortality. Flegel et al. I'm putting that on my list of things to read after this. 2013 is outdated. There's definitely more modern versions of this, for sure.
Studying nutrition, weights, all the stuff, and
Tell
we
me
can't
what
keep.
lipotoxicity is.
It doesn't come up in my curriculum.
Again, I do hate when people go into a very niche part to say, well, you don't know this, so therefore you don't know anything. I don't agree when people do this. I think that she mentioned it earlier. You can make a straw man argument of you either know this or you know nothing. Not fair, but let's see what she says. I'm assuming it's still going to be nothing.
Because it's bullshit. Because it's a TikTok thing that's like, cortisol face or whatever.
It's
but
not.
please, just
Listen
back to
to
the
me.
studies.
It is not bullshit.
studies, back to the
It's
studies.
ectopic fat.
But can we just
It's
say,
when
because you
fat
keep sidestepping
ends
and then we
up-
can never
I'm
get
not
anywhere.
sidestepping. This is the claim.
Okay.
Sidestepping what,
Okay.
the
The
science?
claim is that obesity is unhealthy. Lipotoxicity
But the
is
reason-
not bullshit.
but-
it is the definition of ectopic fat.
It's
When
funny it never
fat
came up in
gets
6 years of a
deposited-
professional accredited undergrad.
What's fatty liver disease?
I know what fatty liver. I was a
What
clinical
is it?
dietitian in a
That's
hospital.
lipotoxicity.
Well, fatty liver disease is overrepresented in people who are overweight, but people who are actually very lean can still get it, like, because it's a liver function thing. So, yeah, I wouldn't like hang my hat on it, but definitely overrepresented in people who are obese for sure.
Toxicity.
Okay,
Okay. When fat is in the liver, when fat is in the heart, when fat gets deposited in the brain,
Yeah.
that is lipotoxicity, and it happens when the body has.
Oh, yeah, let's do this for the listeners, the ones that aren't watching the video. So there's brought up a fact check. Lipotoxicity refers to cell damage caused by excess fatty acids accumulating in organs that are not designed to store fat in pretty much the places she just mentioned: liver, pancreas, heart, and muscle. When fat spills over from adipose tissue into these organs, it can promote inflammation, insulin resistance, which is obviously where you get your type 2 diabetes from, and then multiple organ dysfunction as well. So again,
No
endocrinology.
place to put the excess energy anymore.
Okay.
It is irrefutable that that is bad for your health.
Can we just go back to the correlation doesn't equal causation? So you're saying there's causal studies, right?
Yes, MRT
Gotcha.
studies
You can-
that show.
The acronym is great. Okay. So my thing is, the reason why we cannot show
Do you notice that the people who talk the most bullshit, and I know this is someone who does it, the big hand gestures. Do you understand? But you're such an idiot, right? That you don't understand the point that I'm trying to make here. It's it's obnoxious, even when I do it.
that the fat in and of itself leads to the negative health outcomes is because
Mm-hmm.
we cannot keep a human in a lab and control every factor, but have the only thing
why
that's
they
different.
use Mendelian randomized control.
But can you just
trials.
listen? So a person,
that
a person,
inherently eliminates any conflating factors because they're based on
Yeah, that's just getting
genetic
cooked.
predispositions coupled with
But
lifestyle.
They do
lifestyle.
cut some of this stuff,
a
I'm
person
guessing.
in a larger body has experienced things that we can't undo from the fat. So for example, they might have negative health outcomes because every time they go to a doctor, instead of being given an evidence-based treatment, like I have unearned thin privilege, I go to a doctor, I say, my stomach hurts, I get a full
You're
workup.
basically saying the earth is flat. Are you trying
Yeah.
to tell me that
no,
having
I
fat
just-
in your liver,
I just wanna talk
having
about-
fat in your
So what was she saying there? She's saying that she goes to a doctor and then they will give her what? Unvalidated?
heart, having fat deposited in your brain is healthy.
No, I just want to talk
Okay,
about.
so no, you're not trying
What
to
do you
say
wanna
that it's
talk about?
healthy.
No, I'm not trying to tell you that is what I said. I was never talking about the health of it.
Okay.
I'm trying to say everything you're saying is hinging on this idea, and it's a problem.
Hinging on science. It's not a problem. Your problem is that you're going nowhere near science. You're going for emotion. And there's a good thing when you're trying to see someone who's trying to, and I do this all the time, watch my eyes from now on, right? I shouldn't have told you this because now you're going to watch my eyes. When people are searching for a fact or like making something up, they're searching because they're trying to go, how am I going to deal with this? their eyes naturally gravitate upwards. They go, "Meh," especially up and like towards one direction. This chick's like going, how am I going to do this, right? It's not just intrinsically, bang, it's in my brain, here it is.
That we disagree on it, that it's the weight in and of itself that leads to the negative health outcomes. You're
Yes.
saying this
What's the
MRT
fat?
totally is.
Fat is an endocrine organ.
I know, but can you?
It
What about?
it destroys your hormone balance. It creates insulin sensitivity.
What about the
when
fact-
the body has
Reduction in
too much
sensitivity.
fat, it releases insane amounts
Yeah.
of different.
I just wonder. Have you heard of social determinants of health?
Tell me about it.
Where's
Okay,
this going?
social determinants of health, a group of factors that impact someone's health outcomes.
Okay.
That are things like your healthcare access and quality, neighborhood and built environment.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's definitely something to be said about that. You grow up in America, your chances of being a fatty, huge, right? If you grow up in regional Vietnam, nowhere near as much because access to high processed food is not there. The ability to take a cushy job, to trying to make money, making videos to entertain people, less of an option. You know, physical hard work is more likely. So, I mean, she's definitely not wrong that where you grow up, how you grow up, and the environment you grow up in are factors that might increase the likelihood that you can end up carrying more weight. But it doesn't argue the fact that if you do get that thing, regardless of the determination about what made you fat or made you overweight or fat-bodied, it's still unhealthy. So the point of this question remains.
Things like your stress levels, socioeconomic status. So
Okay.
here's the thing. A person who's fat or lives in a larger body, we can't take away that that person has probably experienced higher stress levels their whole life from experiencing marginalization every corner, from
So the argument to be made is that because they're big-bodied and they've had to deal with the social judgment of being big-bodied, that they've had more physical stressors as a result of someone that hasn't. How do I feel about that argument? I don't think I agree with it. I mean, certainly it's up there. But again, if you get that much negative feedback, it does get to that peak pain point, right? Is that what's the thing that's more painful to be? Is it more painful to continue to be big-bodied and not take action? Or is it actually more painful to make a change? I would argue that it's more painful to stay big-bodied. So you could say that stressor is there, but you could also make that choice to reduce that stressor, right? To go to the gym, to get the exercise, to ask for medical intervention help if you don't want to do one of those two things. Or if you can't, like if you actually do have some sort of challenge, defect, disability, condition that allows you, does not allow you to basically go to the gym, then sure. I mean, those interventions obviously another option. But no, I don't think I agree with that. Yep, you will have greater challenges to your mental health of existing as a larger person, but expecting society to change because you like your own body. If you were truly body positive, I don't think that you would care. So there's kind of a challenge to the argument of the body positivity movement that unless the entire planet conforms to this thinking, it's not going to work out.
was like the biggest loser to the doctor's office.
okay.
We can't take away that they haven't been given evidence-based health options because
they have.
when they go to a doctor, they're told to go lose
When
weight.
fat gets
Because that is the
deposited
evidence.
in
But
the
you're not- you're
brain.
not answering what I'm
how
saying.
She is.
I'm confused. Are you suggesting these are the reasons people become overweight?
No, I'm suggesting that a person could be in a larger body and be perfectly healthy based on
Do
their
you realize
labs,
that
their
only
cholesterol.
7%?
Perfectly healthy. I mean, you do have it. I mean, don't get me wrong. My doctor gets pissed off constantly. I see it in his face. He wants me to have type 2 diabetes. He wants me to have some sort of liver dysfunction. I can see in his face. Every time I get clean labs while I'm still big, he gets pissed, right? And he's like, oh, you can kind of see that he wants there to be, see, I told you this is going to happen, man, because he wants to have another thing to throw at me. I don't blame him for thinking like that because I do defy the science. But I know that it is only because I've still been going to the gym while having a horrendous diet is kind of temporarily gaming the system. But I am absolutely running on borrowed time. I know it, right? But I guess I'm learned enough on this topic to know that. Like I've been a hypocrite my entire adult life after university as I continued to get fatter and cycle up and down, right? Because I know the science. I should be judged more than any other individual that is fat-bodied because I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science. I know better than a lot of people about what I've done to my body is doing to my health. I'm a piece of shit for that, right? I know it, but I need to push myself further to get there. And I know these things. And that's why right now, or over the last, I guess, year, I've been seeking help, getting better trainers, getting nutritional advice, trying to figure out some of my old injuries that made working out so painful, getting to the bottom of that. Just saying, okay, well, I lift bad because, my left shoulder that got repaired from footy, blah, 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 however many years ago. I need to fix that to be able to make everything else easier to make this. So removing the barriers from myself to ease my level of piece of shitness to get closer to where I know I need to be, right? So to sit there and say here, though, that all these people are just getting all these things, just told to lose weight when there's no science behind it. Far out, man. Living in a whole other planet.
Percent of people who are classified as overweight or obese, call it whatever you guys feel comfortable with, only 7% are classified as healthy.
Say that was true. Say we
I
knew for
can
certain.
go grab the data for you right now if
Okay.
you want.
Say we knew for certain that it was unhealthy. That
Oh, here we go. Nice fact check. So one US population study using strict metabolic criteria found that 6.8% of adult obesity were metabolically healthy. The thing is, when you do one data point in time, I guess I'd have to see. They must have had in both groups. Here we go. Other research shows higher estimates with different definitions are used, with prevalence of metabolically healthy obesity ranging from about 10 to 30%. If you are obese temporarily from 21 to 22, the impact may not be that bad. If you are looking at longitudinal research where someone's been fat for a decade of being sedentary, not exercising, eating processed foods to excess far beyond your caloric output, no doubt that data is going to skew widely. Single data points in time don't tell the whole story. Longitudinal cohort studies do.
what you're saying is true.
And here's the
But even then, we'd be in this place where, okay, so what do we do? Are we going to send someone down a path of trying to lose weight and then gaining and trying and gaining? And we know that weight cycling in and of itself, bad for the heart, bad for insulin, bad for the
What do
brain,
we do?
bad for all the things.
We work with that individual.
That's what I do in my private practice.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And I don't encourage weight loss because it's unethical.
Jesus Christ. How is that unethical? It's unethical to not try and find them and present them with options, okay? If exercise and diet are too hard up front, and look, sometimes this is true. Sometimes people have gotten so massive that they can't do the exercise. Literally impossible. They cannot get up off their chair. But their caloric burning just by existing is huge, right? So sometimes a medical intervention at the start, maybe a pill, maybe a jab, or things like the extreme versions of bariatric surgery, maybe that's there. So yeah, sure, give people their options. Tell them the risks of all of them. The thing is, this is the crazy thing about it, the least invasive version, the one with the lowest risk, is eat healthy, work out. That's the one associated with the lowest risk. Everything else that's a cheating path, and I shouldn't say cheating because it's a door opener is probably a better part of it. We need to stop looking at people on Ozempic and saying, oh, they cheated. They lost 40 kilos. And that was, they still have to do eating more correctly. They still have to do some exercise to get there. We need to enable that those conversations should exist. Give them their options, right? If one doesn't work out right now, use some or all of these together or separately to try and find something. But to say, I don't encourage weight loss as some sort of, I hope she didn't say medical professional, is insane. This is like modern witchcraft voodoo. It's like, well, you must get a piece of sage and burn it at midnight under the ardent moon, and that will get rid of your diabetes. Doesn't know how it works. Does not work, and is unethical to do that. It's unethical to say, I don't recommend weight loss. Fuck.
I disagree with you.
And
I
what's
think it's
ethical? You were
unethical.
asking before,
I think
what
it's
do
unethical
professionals do?
not to be transparent with people
Yeah.
about the dangers.
Yeah, transparency is the dangers of weight cycling. You can go down that path.
Why? What is it about the body positivity thing when they're locked in on the weight cycling is the more dangerous? It's the being heavy part of the weight cycling that is the most dangerous. That's why it's dangerous, because they get big. If you're advocating against don't do crash diets because they're unsustainable and they don't work, I agree with you. But otherwise, the weight cycling argument, it's the heavy part, the bigger part of weight cycling that's the dangerous part.
That separate issue. You're presuming they're weight cycling. If you're doing your job, they shouldn't have to weight cycle, right?
No, it's not about me. It's
Sure.
about the body. The body is so smart. But we're animals. Our bodies, when we lose weight, our body goes, oh shit, she just starved me. I'm gonna do everything I can to try to get back to that place.
I think it's
drive up.
Okay, this is an interesting point because she's right and wrong at the same time. So, and again, never trust the word of some dickhead on YouTube, but my understanding of this is your body does have a memory, and the body has absolutely been trained over human history for fast and famine, right? Is that if you grow up in, I don't know, the Scandinavian Viking region in the Viking times, during the summer months, game is plentiful, vegetables, random berries, all growing on a tree, right? So you can pick those things, you can eat good, right? You can get a hunt, you can eat like a king, and your body is designed to store that energy. Like our adipose fat tissue system is supposed to be like a backpack full of food when you need it, right? We put a little bit on during the good months because we're going to need that energy for those lean winters. And there's this misconception for most of humans, unless you have some kind of endocrinology condition like diabetes where you have to eat at certain times or your blood sugar's getting low, are physically dangerous. So there is a danger there. But for most human beings, this concept and this idea that we need to eat every 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours is just not true, right? Because our body, our species would have just died off thousands of years ago when there was a long, cold winter where you may have gone days to weeks without food. Now, ironically, during those kind of periods, right, the people who were a little bit hefty tended to go a little bit better, because what your body does when you fast is it shifts its energy systems, and you start to pivot because there is no incoming food, which means there is no carbohydrates, glucose, or sugar coming into your system. So it's, what do we do? What are we going to use to keep our body running? Because we need something. All right, we've got these big chunks of fat stores on our body. Let's start churning into that. And you start upping your beta oxidation. You start metabolizing fat at a much greater rate. Your body shifts. And instead of regulating down, right, to basically say, well, we need to conserve energy right now, and there's some parts to that, but ultimately you will get things like norepinephrine increase, because if you think back to that time, if you hadn't eaten in a few days, if you just became lethargic because you hadn't eaten and you're going to die off, you ain't catching shit. That boar is going to get away from you. That fox, you're not going to catch it. That rabbit, gone. You need to be on. You need to be sharp, right? And I've done like fasting and keto diets before. And again, it can lead to weight cycling. I've done it incorrectly. I wouldn't do it the way that I did it. But the few times that I've done it correctly, after that first hell of the first 48 hours as your body's adapting energy systems, you start to feel sharper. Like you don't get that crash in the afternoon after you've had a big carbohydrate full lunch, because you're not getting that post-carbohydrate sort of crash, right? You're getting that more consistency energy burn over the day because you're metabolizing fat. So I don't think I agree with this, because like, yes, your body does have a memory. And if you lose a lot of weight, it is very easy to put that weight back on if you rebound too quickly. And again, the research is pretty mixed that I've read. There's probably newer research that I haven't read, but it used to say that like fat cell memory, where it basically remains in that, like Jillian said, kind of hypertrophic state where it has the biggest storage container, might last as long as 2 years, right? Before you get these new healthy cells churning in and out that start to, you know, replace those older ones. So it's kind of both, right? That yes, you are more likely to go back to being fat if you were fat, if you go back to old habits right away. But also your body does have the ability to adapt to a no food environment or a caloric restriction or a fasting period, for sure.
Thoughts about food.
I think it's more
Slow down
complex.
metabolism to conserve the energy you are getting.
So are you suggesting that because
If you want to keep that metabolic rate high, keep activity high during caloric restriction with strength training, right? There is definitely evolving research that says that's the way to do it.
it's hard and it's multifactorial, we should negate the dangers and not try to get
suggesting
healthier?
that it's more dangerous to weight cycle than it
No,
is
it's
to
not.
stay in a fat body.
No, it's
Still not
Both
the
bad.
claim. And if you want to show me that, I'd like, sure, show me the data. I'm not going to argue with that. It's not healthy to do that either. That's still not the claim.
Your claim
This
is
isn't a
fat in of itself.
hierarchy of what is unhealthy.
We're out of time. We have
Yeah, and this is bad science, what I'm about to say. And I think I already said part of this. Being full-time fat for decades versus intermittently fat, part of me just instinctively goes, intermittent breaks for your body where you've accelerated large amounts of exercise, gone through fasting. And there's this whole, autophagy argument that when you've gone through a fasted period or sometimes during caloric restriction that the body can kind of do like a cellular clean out. Part of me just feels instinctively like surely it must be better to give your body those breaks over an extended period of time, even if you are weight cycling, which is still bad. You should try and have sustainable long-term change for health, no doubt. But if you had to pick either always being fat or sometimes being fat, it feels to me like the always fat version is worse. But either way, it doesn't argue the point. Jillian's point was the body positivity movement encourages people or says that it's healthy to still be fat. It's just not. It's just not.
The pause there. Yeah, thank you.
So that's the end of that topic, huh?
Who put these here? Can someone remove these off the set, please? Come on.
What's happening? This is an ad. Okay. So
Okay.
that first topic, I mean, I don't think anyone in there came even close to making a point. It is interesting hearing the body positivity movement that there seems to be a real cycle on. Okay. Weight cycling's the thing. Obesity's a bad word. Mental health is more important than physical health. I think that's kind of, it seems like the echo chamber talking points that have gotten them into this confidence that, well, no, don't listen to the doctors and the science for all these years because that's not working, which I can see how you can fall for that bias that if society is getting fatter and the medicine says this, then that must mean the medicine is wrong. I can kind of see how you might come around to that. But I mean, the reality is that our living environment has changed so much as a species over the last, let's say 50 years, let alone 1,000 years, in a way that is incredibly toxic to us, and we need to adapt. And the medicine is a compensatory mechanism that we need to go to address, obviously, the way that we are making worse choices. We are being less physically active because most of us are not farmers. Most of us are not hunters the way we used to be hundreds to thousands of years ago. A lot of us now have a sedentary lifestyle where we have to create exercise to replicate what our physiology was designed for or has evolved from over tens of thousands of years. I'm not going to go into all of these topics. I'm going to skip to the ones that I find the most interesting. This one, I'm not going to cover all the way through. I'll let Jillian introduce it. I'll talk about it at a high level, but I'd rather this video be about 4 hours long because I could do this. Let's just go a high level on this one, and I'll skip to one that I want to hear more of from them. So I'll let Jillian introduce it.
Is that the large food companies are one of the primary beneficiaries of the body positivity movement.
So yes and no. I mean, they're definitely a beneficiary. And we certainly see ridiculous amounts of spending through some of the largest processed food corporations in the world, like Nestle, who quite often will put up these campaigns that make you think that they're invested in you losing weight. Like, for example, you'd be shocked how many of those weight tracking apps or the things where you enter your calories or measure your steps are actually sponsored by these processed food companies. And they kind of will sneak advertising into you in a way that you may or may not be aware of. You know, they can basically track your eating habits. They get, ridiculous amounts of information about your intake. You'd be shocked about how much information you give to these guys. I think they benefit a lot from the data. I mean, certainly it's no secret that if there are a lot of big people around that eat junk food and that we celebrate people who can live in whatever frame that they want, there's no societal repercussions, there's no health repercussions to eating crap all the time, then that industry gets to continue and prosper. However, I think that one of the reasons that that industry has been able to succeed so much is that the availability of truly healthy food at a cost-effective metric is becoming less and less achievable in a lot of Western countries. You know, it just is easier and cheaper to go out and buy a Happy Meal from McDonald's in a lot of cases than going to get, eggs and cheese or chicken or steak and fresh vegetables. It's just simply a lot harder to do that at the same cost. Plus, it's easier, it's more convenient. You don't have to prep, you don't have to do the shopping. So the barrier to entry to cooking and eating healthier is higher for time and it is higher for money. So I think that they do benefit directly from this epidemic, but are they the biggest beneficiary? I don't think so. I would say the biggest beneficiaries of the body positivity people are companies who are body positive specific. So, I mean, anyone who dabbles into mental health, influencing. There's an entire industry built on body positivity and giving you a space where you can feel welcomed at the size you are, which I encourage part of that message, that people need to have confidence in who they are, but need to be realistic about where they are in their health journey, and recognizing that while they might be where they are, they may be comfortable in their appearance and who they are as a person, which is the more important thing really, that at the end of the day, they still are putting their own life at risk. Industries on that, diet, foods. I mean, obviously a lot of that is the same industries if we're honest about it. They will try and sell these alternatives where like, oh, it's 90% fat free, but 3,000% more carbohydrates. So food industry kind of benefits there. But the number one, overwhelmingly beyond all of that, is the pharmaceutical industry. Okay. If you are happy with who you are and you don't want to do the healthy eating thing, you don't want to take the standard route, the hardest route to correct where you're at, then obviously you have to look in a medicinal approach to either manage the outcomes of what you were dealing with. So you go on blood pressure medication eventually, you go on cardiovascular medicines to either prevent a heart attack, like heparin, warfarin, blood thinners to, minimize clotting. You are going to be on insulin for type 2 diabetes. I think the pharmaceutical industry, cancers alone, by the way, obviously the amount of money that's made by chemotherapy as a treatment, because it's, in many cases not a cure, it just slows things down. Obviously it is a cure sometimes, but the rates of success in advanced cancers are, it's tough. So the pharmaceutical industry, I think, is the big winner, is that the more people that we say it's okay to be this way, and it is okay to be this way, but there is a significant impact there. And I want to say this, that I've got no problem with people choosing to be a bigger size. If they are unhealthy, that's their choice, as long as it doesn't affect everyone else. So like, for example, here in Australia, where we have free healthcare, and ironically, this was a debate we had to do at university, where you had to debate that financial penalties in the insurance world, that basically if you were overweight or obese for a long period of time and hadn't tried to address it, that perhaps you should pay a higher premium for healthcare, right? Because in this country, it is predominantly free. Or if you are on an insurance scheme, if you have higher risk factors, potentially you have to pay more insurance. So in Australia, if you are overweight or a smoker or an advanced drinker, or you are choosing to participate in behaviors that are dangerous, risky, extreme in the acute setting, like jumping a motorbike over a cliff, versus in the chronic, which is doing, Big Macs every day, all day, every day for decades, all of that is going to create a financial strain on this country. It is going to put a severe strain with chronic illness into older age, well, maybe not so old an age, where we are going to have to pick up the tab for that. Our public health system will be overloaded with people who are overweight and who have all the comorbidities that come with that, including the medications that come with that. So that is where people's personal choices, while they have the freedom to make it, there is a debate to be had about, well, if other people are choosing not to do that and they're not causing that strain, is that actually fair that some people's tax dollars are potentially covering the cost of other people's personal choices, personal decisions to be who they are? That's their freedom to make that choice, but it doesn't have to be our tax burden to do that. Should my overweight, if I end up developing comorbidities, it doesn't feel right to me that other people should pick up the tab for that. I mean, it'd be great, sure, get a free ride the whole time. But there are things like that where I think the personal choice element, where people say, especially in America, it's like, you know what, man, I feel like I have the right that I can smoke a cigar and drink a fifth of whiskey every night, and I can wash it down with an American cheeseburger and not even a Bud Light, just a full-blown Budweiser. And nobody here can tell me what I can do, because my freedom is my own, my life, second, third amendments coming out of my asshole, man. This accent changed very specifically as we went. That was supposed to be a redneck, by the way. But when it becomes an impact on other people, even the people around you, like, I mean, if you have a heart attack or a stroke and you lose function in an arm or a leg, and your wife or your partner or your caregiver now has to take care of you, and their quality of life is impacted forever, or you die of a heart attack at 45. This is one of the things is why I'm trying to get into shape now, is because I realize that if I kick it tomorrow, my whole family, because of my personal choices, is screwed, because I'm the only income earner. Please subscribe. I need the money. So, we really should have expanded conversations beyond the personal choice, that there is financial impacts of this. But who stands to benefit the most? Ladies and gentlemen, it is the pharmaceutical industry, because they're the ones that win from chronic illnesses in this particular condition. So rather than going through their claims, I just wanted to inject my own thoughts, I suppose. But why don't we jump to Jillian's next claim? Because I think this one was a little bit more interesting.
Body positivity movement oversimplifies disordered eating and trauma.
All right, whoever wants to be the next debater, get to the chair in 3,
Oh, the race again.
2, 1.
Oh. These guys going to fight? Do it.
I'm not going to assume, but I imagine you have some sort of maybe personal experience with eating disorders or disordered eating.
Definitely as a kid, would overeat. I wouldn't say binge eating disorder, but I would compulsively overeat. I would eat to have a connection with my father. I would eat to feel a sense of comfort. I would eat to feel a sense of control, without question.
And did you feel shame and then go to therapy to work on that, or did you just
I definitely
oversimplify it and then kind of?
I didn't oversimplify. I was 13, 14, and 15, so I didn't have the bandwidth to process what was actually going on.
I do think, by the way, and I can say this from 100% personal experience, that is the way to do it. You know, I know that a lot of people aren't convinced in therapy, but therapy for me, I had a wonderful therapist. I got very, very lucky when I went through my bad time. That the hardest part is getting to realize that you have a problem. You know, that the comfort eating leads to the stress eating, leads to the shame spiral of you getting fatter, you're feeling less attractive, you're starting to get puffed going up a set of stairs, then you shame eat, and then you punish yourself, and you're just like, well, you know, I can't do this, so you stick a finger down your throat and you vomit, which was the case of my bulimia. And honestly, it does get out of control. So I think recognizing that you have a problem and having the strength to go and get help. A lot of people have this feeling inside themselves, and I was no different, that it's a weakness to go and seek help to try and find answers, I guess, that you can't bring for yourself. Because, I mean, I'd gone through that spiral so many times and everything I tried wasn't working. So to go and actually go down the road of therapy and exploring why had I sort of resorted to food as a comfort in the first place, why was I feeling this shame about that when I very much knew the science behind everything was happening. Like, well, I knew what was going on, but obviously there was emotional components and, you know, stuff that was going on at the time in my life that was overwhelming that I had to address, you know? So I think that is, in my opinion, it's never straightforward, the eating disorder thing. And there's so many different ends of that spectrum, from anorexia nervosa right through to bulimia and, you know, 12,000 things in between. But comfort eating in the modern age is a very common thing, you know? So I'm curious to see what Jillian says about the simplification.
I was in therapy for other things that were going on in my household, and I definitely was helped.
Okay. So I'm glad that you were able to, go to therapy. That's not something that everyone is able to go to. It's a luxury and a privilege for a lot of people, especially in the United States.
So again, trying to make a political point in here, or just saying, oh, it's nice if you can get it. Like, I suppose there's some truth to that therapists are not cheap. There are avenues that people can go down, and there are more resources than ever before. But again, that is more of a Western culture. So I guess I kind of have to give a small point to this young lass that it is a privilege to be able to have the ability to do that. It can be a barrier to seek help. Yeah, I don't think I'm against that point. I think she might have actually brought me around a little bit. Yeah, it is nice. But I mean, to sort of snide it like that is not my favorite. It's like, it must be nice, you know? True, but must be nice.
I have dealt with an eating disorder since I was 7. That's when it was first realized. It wasn't diagnosed at 7, but it was realized at that point. And my body fluctuated. I'm not going to use numbers because I think there are a lot of people that have disordered eating that use numbers as a metric. And so they'll look at me and I'll say a metric, and then it'll cause someone to have what I like to call a shift in where they are now to where they're going to be down like a rabbit hole of disordered eating behaviors.
I mean, I don't see the point of this. Like, I mean, for example, I went from my peak fitness at around 87 kegs of pure muscle to 160 kilos in under 5 years. You know, it was accelerated by lifestyle choices, you know, this eating disorder. I mean, I give you a bunch of excuses about how I got there, But ultimately, sometimes I think it's important to understand how quickly shit can get out of control if you let it. So I think that sometimes sharing the numbers, my personal thoughts would be a little bit different. That I think that the numbers in some cases can help people understand that, oh, you know, that guy must have been overeating forever to get to that weight. Just like, no, you can do a hell of a lot of damage pretty quickly if you're pretty committed to the self-destruction, for sure.
And I think that trauma and eating disorders go hand in hand, but they're not exclusive. There are people that don't necessarily have any trauma, but somehow have developed some sort of eating disorder. My eating disorder was something that I had from a really young age, and then just worsened because of my physical perception around people. But it wasn't something that innately was trauma-based. I am neurodivergent, and it was never diagnosed until I was, almost 30. So
the look from her where she goes, okay. I think it's because it's the use of the term neurodivergent that it's become this badge of honor for such an expanded part of the population, especially the young population. Like, everyone wants to be different. And I guess I'm not entirely sure why I understand the why. Like, why there's been this obsession in the last probably decade, really, for your identity as number one and who you are as a person as number two. Like, I want you to define me by my gender, my sexual preference, my neurological status or diagnosis before I want you to know that, hey, I'm Chu. I feel like I'm kind of a good guy, kind of a prick sometimes. You know what I mean? But hilarious. You know, I don't really understand the desire to separate and say, no, I am this and I need you to know this with a label. I need a label. Whereas, you know, like the 80s, the 90s, there was all this like, don't tread on me. I hate labels. Don't label me, man. It's funny how there's like this cycles of rebellion against whatever the previous generation did. I need to do the opposite. You know, you go from the hippies to the 80s to grunge to whatever we're doing right now, where it's feelings over facts and it's very much about the id of the individual rather than, or no, actually not even individual, like they need their own little communities of this is us and the rest of the world is different and the enemy. And I need you to understand that this is my space, this is your space. And it's so divisive. Like, I'm not a fan of this label culture. And I kind of get the feeling that that word is a bit of a trigger for Jillian Michaels as well.
That's not because of trauma. That's just because of my neurodivergence. That's how my brain is connected. And so sometimes with neurodivergent people, they have eating rituals, eating routines that are rigid. And so that's where mine came from. So to say it's oversimplifying EDs, like body positivity is oversimplifying EDs, oversimplifying trauma. You're taking away the people that that use the body positivity moment to find someone who they can relate to, and so someone that they can connect with that doesn't have the same road that maybe the masses had, but has their same road. Yeah,
you've been voted out by the majority.
Oh damn!
Return to your seat.
I guess because I don't really understand. Yeah. Well, I don't know the point she was trying to make. But then again, I'm not entirely sure I'm exactly where Jillian Michaels coming from. So that oversimplified disordered eating and trauma. That what it's basically all disordered eating is trauma or all disordered eating is neurodivergent. I'm hoping she gets more of a chance to express her opinion here.
Hi. I'm Summer. How are you?
Jillian, nice to meet you.
Good God, young lady.
Okay, so the body positivity movement actually got me out of my eating disorder, and if that's okay, I would like to tell you a little bit about it.
Absolutely.
So growing up, I wasn't ever fat. I just have I have large breasts. I have got a condition basically.
She
I know you're
does?
I'm laughing because that would be my
no
dream.
idea.
That's the only reason I'm laughing. I was like, poor you, Summer. I'm sorry, go ahead. Not to try to invalidate how you feel.
That's okay. That's
It's
okay.
hard,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
So I've got a condition called macromastia.
Okay.
It means that my breasts will just continuously keep growing. So I had to deal.
Whatever that is, let's be real. Every guy on planet Earth secretly wants that elsewhere, right? It'd be a problem. I've heard there's one guy in the adult industry that has this problem. It's just like, oh, it just keeps getting bigger every year. God damn my life. The rest of us are like, bro. Anyway, I digress.
With this my whole childhood, and I got picked on and bullied and stuff because I was 8 years old with double D's. So that's absolutely okay.
It is funny how that happens though. I remember kids that developed early in school as well who just in primary school, there was oh, big dick, you know, I was it was such a weird thing. But then 5 years later, legend, You know what I mean? It is amazing how the same physical attribute at a certain scale of your life of immaturity becomes the complete opposite a few years down the road after puberty has kicked an absolute mule.
To the doctors, and they actually told me that I had to lose weight in order to get a reduction. At this point, I was actually a Scottish.
To explain that, and I'm guessing here, the reason sometimes they will say that you need to lose weight before a surgery like that is because of the risk of what happens when you go under anesthesia. So when you go under anesthesia, they're giving you a sedative, they're giving you an anesthetic, basically, that does relax the muscles. And if you do have a little bit of extra weight, you normally have that on your airway as well. So it means that as they put you under, right, while they're trying to do whatever it is they do, in this case, they're trying to obviously, you know, cut the tissue and remove the extra breast. Ultimately, your breathing is going to be reduced. And in extreme cases, you can actually drift into apnea, which is basically where you will literally fall while you're already unconscious, you will stop breathing. And that's a very, very challenging thing for an anesthetist and someone trying to do a surgery to deal with, to try and get you oxygenated again as quickly as they can to make sure that no damage is done to you. They try and finish the surgery. Maybe it works. If it doesn't, they have to try and find a way to get your airway. Surgery gets canceled in the best case scenario, or in the worst case scenario. Well, actually, I don't know if you want to talk about the worst case scenario because it's pretty grim. You know, people can die on the table because, you know, there's a great little not great, but interesting documentary that this guy did in the UK where he was trying to bring light to, you know, you can't underestimate the risk of anesthesia when you're going through for a surgery. Like a lot of these people doing voluntary surgeries for plastics or modifications all the time, they got to understand that there is a small percentage that you have a reaction. The anesthesia, maybe you're allergic to it, rare, but can happen. But more often than not, it's oxygenation. You know, if you stop breathing while you're on the table and they can't get it started again and they can't get you onto a ventilator quickly enough, your brain dies from lack of oxygen, right? And you may be in a vegetative state and someone has to unplug a machine. There's a very real risk. So I'm assuming that's what she's talking about, that they're saying, look, if you want to get this, you probably already have so much mass on your chest at the moment. There's a risk because that's creating extra downwards pressure on your airway that we're going to sedate. If you're having a higher amount of body fat on top of that, that's going to make things way worse. So this surgery is way riskier unless you lose weight. So I would assume from context, that's why they would have told her to lose weight before the reduction.
Size 6, which is a UK size 2. So like on the bottoms, just obviously not on my top. So this actually drove me into an eating disorder, and I started to starve myself and try and make myself thinner so that my breasts would get smaller, and that never ever happened. They just continuously, because it's obviously a condition, so they just kept getting bigger as I was getting smaller and smaller. And it wasn't until obviously the online platform made the body positivity movement more aware to me, and then that really helped me, and it's made me start eating more. It made me start posting more online about my body, and I just think that your claim's a little bit silly.
Can I give you some examples?
Of course, please.
Please do.
So, while intuitive eating is actually not intended for people with eating disorders, I cannot tell you how many people have misinterpreted that. And I've ended up dealing with it personally for quite some time now. So for example...
Yeah, I was literally about to jump into this. I'm so glad the fact check came in. So let's do their version. So intuitive eating was not designed as a standalone clinical treatment for eating disorders, but its principles are often incorporated into evidence-based care to help reduce rigid dieting and disordered eating patterns, usually used alongside medical and psychological treatment, not in isolation. So intuitive eating is more, if you're hungry, you eat. You know what I mean? So it's usually more on the anorexia side. I'm definitely very not that red. I've heard the term a few times, read the definition, but it's more along the fact of don't just sort of go, I can only eat this many calories a day. I can only do this. I can't eat Tuesdays. I can do this. It's too hard to follow. So intuitive eating is basically whenever you are hungry, that's a sign from your body that you should eat. Now, is that something you would want to give to someone at the other end of that spectrum? Probably not. It's very conditionally specific.
Things like avoid diets where mechanistic eating is actually recommended for people with many different types of eating disorders. And even the women who started intuitive eating suggested that, like, hey, this is a goal, not a treatment plan. But when you've got, random people online who are, hey, just listen to your feelings of fullness. You can't do that when you're anorexic. Your body no longer recognizes those satiety cues. It absolutely shuts it down. And it's, what was it? Listen to your hunger. Like you cannot do that if you have binge eating disorder and you're feeding a deeper hunger. It's the fundamental ways in which things like intuitive eating have been misrepresented by the masses. And of course, I understand what it was intended for, but if you think that the vast majority of these people posting on TikTok have read the frickin' guidelines of mechanistic.
So is the point that Jillian's trying to make is that they've tried to simplify this so much in the body positivity movement that, your body's going to tell you what to do. You don't need some external person to do. I think I understand what she's saying is that they're saying that disordered eating is complex, that trauma is complex, and that if you don't follow the medicine and the protocols for, I guess, finding your way out of that, they're never going to be perfect. But I mean, obviously there are studies and research and worldwide data that gives you a kicking off point. And you just basically say, well, follow your hunger or follow your feelings. Yeah. If that's the point she's trying to make, I think I am with her. That it is definitely oversimplified when you talk about it like that. If you don't know the nuances on the difference between the different types of binge eating versus, full-blown bulimia, when you have other, timed eating disorders versus, pure body dysmorphia, anorexia type situations. So, yeah.
Eating, I think we're both dreaming.
No, I get that, but I think the thing in my head is like, why do you care so much about someone else's body in order to like try and argue against body positivity? Like, say someone's like fat, obese, whatever, walking on the street, that doesn't actually affect you as a person.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't think that's the point she's trying to make though, is it? She's trying to basically say that trying to tell people that being positive about being fat is not dangerous in her earlier points, I guess. We're moving off topic, but yeah.
Right. So I don't understand why you would feel the need to fight for people that are arguing for that person to feel validated as a person.
Because of the way they're doing it, right?
I'm not arguing for the person I don't know. However, there are people that do want help, and I think that this can leave them feeling exceptionally confused. There are many that I have tried to personally help that have experienced feeling misled, misguided by some of the, or almost all of the intuitive eating principles, and they're not being educated on that.
But you could also argue like the latter.
But there are a lot of people that actually want help, and I care that they get the most.
But I don't think the body
help.
positivity movement is like just for obese people, just for people that are drastically need help.
Anorexia is not obesity.
So I was anorexic, and the body positivity movement helped me. Do you not think that the body positive movement helps them rather than shaming them?
Yeah, but the point is, right, if you tell people that they're wonderful exactly the way they are, they're less likely to go and seek the help that perhaps they could get before things get dangerous. Whether it be anorexia end of the spectrum or hyperobesity, morbidly obese individuals that have the health complications. It is dangerous to tell people that, hey, you're perfect the way you are. Don't anyone tell you any different, right? Your being happy with the way you are is more important than the health consequences that may follow if you keep going down this road. And I think that we've seen this before. I mentioned the examples before of Meghan Trainor, Adele, Lizzo. They will shame people for going, you are against fat people. You hate fat people so much because you chose to get healthy. You chose to get skinny. So therefore, you're given into this. You sold out, man. Like, they'll actually guilt and shame and send hate and unfollow. And I think the body positivity movement does have a lot of negative things themselves. Like, why can't they sort of go, well, body positivity is for us. If we want to be this and we want to be this, keep it to yourself. But if someone else wants to go out and get help and do all of this, you shouldn't be saying, look, you should be absolutely happy and fabulous the way you are. Don't listen to anyone else. If that anyone else is a medical professional that based on data is saying to you, hey man, you should maybe think about some things, right? Before it gets real bad, before your life ends, or a loved one that's saying, hey man, this is getting out of control. Like, you have stacked on a lot of weight. You are breathing hard. I'm hearing you stop breathing while you sleep. These are bad things. So I get what she's saying, that, you know, of course you want people to be happy in their own skin. You want them to be stable mentally, to be comfortable in who they are as a person. But so much attachment to the physicality of that. I don't know that it's the external world creating this or whether it's this group themselves or a combination of both.
That's how they get in that place in the first place, with other people shaming them constantly.
I am not suggesting anyone should be shamed.
Again, that shame came from hundreds of years, thousands of years of evolution, right? Is that if your friends didn't keep you fit and healthy, you weren't fast enough to get away from the tiger. Now, I know that we don't have tigers, but if we use that metaphor and follow it through to the end, the tiger that is going to bite you on the ass is a heart attack, is diabetes, right? There is still something chasing you. And I know that you don't want to externally shame someone into a negative outcome. But there is this fine balance where, I mean, the doctors, you know, they have to basically dance this line sometimes when it comes to these conversations. Sometimes they need to tap in something that makes you angry or sad or feel shame or feel guilt, because everyone has a different motivator. You never want to go down that road. You want them to be happy. You want them to go, if you do this, you'll be happier and that'll be worth it. Sometimes it'll be like, if you don't do this, you're going to die, right? If you don't do this, you're going to leave your family with no income, no support, and your kids are going to grow up without a dad. That's a kind of shame that some people, some men, need to hear to get your ass into gear, right? Again, it's not easy. It's not simple, but in some ways it kind of is.
You're completing two different issues. I don't think
But
that
I
people...
think in one, it's all one issue.
It's not though, sweetheart. You're telling me that you think I think shame is awesome. I don't.
No, I didn't.
I don't.
That didn't come out
I
of my mouth.
think that these tools or things like, oh, you know what? It's society, it's diet culture, it's this, it's that, it's bigotry. No, dude, it's probably the fact that like somebody, God forbid, touched you when you were a kid.
I don't think that's appropriate or even right. And the slightest bit. No one touched me.
No,
And
not you, dude. I'm not talking about you.
I completely get that. And
I'm not talking
also
about you
keep mentioning
personally.
like parents. I have two very loving parents. My parents never made me feel shamed about my body. It was like TV shows like The Biggest Losers. In the UK, we've got Super Size versus Super Skinny. Like, it was all of these TV shows that made me feel like this. It wasn't my parents.
I'm going to suggest that I don't think you would be vulnerable to TV shows.
Why?
If there wasn't a primary injury. Because who cares, buddy? Do you know how much stuff like goes after me personally or after people of...
I don't know that I follow Jillian there. I think that anyone on a bet, I mean, you can have the same individual 2 days in a row. Like you can have a day where everything went right. You just got laid. Things are fantastic. Someone can hit you with an insult of, I got your fuckhead. And you'd be like, oh, whatever, man. I'm having a good day. Screw you. And then walk on, stroll on, water off a duck's back. The next day, your dad just died. You're at the bottom of a hole and someone goes, oh, dickhead. And you go, oh, and it hits you way different. You know what I mean? So I don't know that to have external forces be able to affect you like that has to be from some kind of primary trauma, like, something as extreme as being touched by an uncle or whatever it might be. No, I think that people have low self-confidence for a vast variety of reasons. To say that there's a primary injury, I don't know. Some people are just natively shy. Some people are more naturally empathic. They just feel things harder than others. So I don't know that people need a trauma, superhero defining origin backstory as enough justification to develop sensitivity that if they see someone on TV mocking a fat person, that they take that personally. I think that could hit just about anyone on the different day. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't think I agree with that point.
Gay people or after, like,
But you have to
everybody...
remember, I'm quite young. So when these came out, I was very young, very impressionable. And I have like adults telling me that my body, because my BMI is higher, I have adults telling me that my body is like, you have to lose weight to fit in with normal people. Like you're young when you're impressionable. And for you to be arguing against like body positivity, like I hope you don't have a daughter, because my little sister,
See, again, I think this is a conflation issue where I don't think Jillian Michaels is against body positivity. I think she's against celebrating the negative consequences of poor health. And that to celebrate it and to say, ignore the science, ignore the physiological problems in your body, don't believe the science, it will get people killed. Okay? If people fall into that kind of borderline cult-like thinking because it feels better, well, I mean, the fact it feels better is probably why they're eating so much. I mean, I know that I comfort eat. Like, that's 100% why I did it. It's like, day sucked, I feel bad, then you eat a bunch of something, you feel better, right? Dopamine exists for a reason. Those reward loops of, food good. Like, it's there for a reason. But it can get out of control. And to not recognize those boundaries of what is healthy and what is not, what will kill you and what won't, it is dangerous. So to conflate that with being against the extremes of body positivity in this particular space of the hyper overweight or the folks with eating disorders at the other end of the spectrum, like anorexia. Yeah, it's crazy to think that any body positivity is what she's arguing against. She's obviously not, right? Because if you remember The Biggest Loser, again, she's not wrong. Like the reality of that show was so bullshit. Like people were borderline having heart attacks. There were people who were getting like hyponatremia where they were like over drinking so much water that they nearly died. There was people who, you know, had a variety of negative health outcomes, and most of them put on that weight and then more over the next probably, 2 to 5 years anyway. When you looked at the long-term follow-up, Jillian Michaels herself has come out and spoken against the show. Like there's definitely something to be said about the way that that is represented on TV. But you also saw that she was very positive to the people who were taking proactive steps to be happy in their skin. And when they got to where they wanted to be and they were happy and healthy, she celebrated their positivity around their body, right? So I think she's more about celebrating healthy bodies and talking about the concerns of celebrating unhealthy people in ways specifically that will cause harm to the individual. So I think there's a conflation issue with that argument that's not completely honest.
like, needs the body positivity movement. I think people need the body positivity movement because without it, everyone's just going to be looking at other people, judging other people. Like, I'm sure.
You think the body positivity movement is stopping people from being assholes?
No, that's not what I said.
I think you're not right about that.
No, that's not what I
definitely
said
don't
at
think.
all.
You just said you think it stops people from judging other people.
Yeah, well,
no shot that's gonna happen.
They do it too.
They're
just
not
everyone
judging
does.
people on
Human
their
nature.
size or what they're
Of course they are.
They're not though.
Okay, pause.
Dun, dun.
You've been voted out by the majority.
That's okay, thank
Please
you.
return to your seat.
Who's going to go in next?
Really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Lilia. So I think the language there is a little bit tone deaf, just because
the vocal
I
fry?
actually
Do you know what I mean? The vocal fry hits me so bad. As soon as you come in with Valley Girl energy, I mean, you could be giving a lecture on advanced physics in Stephen Hawking's class, but if I had to do it like this, I'd be in seconds. I hope she shakes out of it.
believe that gym talk, diet culture oversimplifies eating disorders.
Two separate
and
issues, though. Both can be true at the same time.
both can be true, as in
You could absolutely be making, first of all, gym talk should have nothing to do with eating disorders. So you're right. But it's a separate issue than the claim I'm making.
how is it separate?
Well, okay. So you're saying gym talk oversimplifies.
By the way, I think I should probably highlight another end of the extreme that I haven't thought about until now too, which is gym bro culture goes the other way. Like you can absolutely be pushed too hard in a workout to the point that it will kill you, which is rhabdomyolysis, where you literally work out so much that you break down muscle in a way that leaks poison throughout your system and you die. Like you feel like absolute hell for several days and then just out of nowhere, die. You see it sometimes after CrossFit events. You see it sometimes after marathons. And you quite often, there was a bit of a spike there for a few years where you saw average Joes walk into a CrossFit gym for the first time, got an absolute meathead of a trainer, just like, just pussy, man, it's just sweat crying, don't be a pussy. And then they're literally like going, nah, man, this hurts, something's wrong. Like, nah, you're just a bitch, that's just the bitch coming out of you. And you're like, all right, fine, man. And then like 2 days later, the dude dies, right? Because that shock to the system that you're unprepared for, and the body had to go through such a catabolic deficit of energy that it literally had to break stuff down to keep up, right? Or muscle injury so badly. These things are absolutely real. Like, so to defend that that's a kind of body positivity at that end of the spectrum for the men's health, actually, the men's health is not too bad. But let's say some of those types of areas of the internet, like bodybuilding.com, you can absolutely go too far on that end too. You can be unhealthy in pushing your body too hard for training without enough recovery. Like, that's the same kind of message I'm saying here. And I imagine to an extent, Jillian, not that we're best friends, never met, but I think that there's a point to be made that both ends of that are incredibly unhealthy. And you need to find that balance between doing what's right for your body in a balanced measure.
Trauma and eating disorders, right?
Well,
I agree
not
with
just
you.
gym talk, but just the way that our
what I
youth,
meant by
all of
gym
us
talk.
we are all exposed to that. Like, we can't just avoid it. And when
Still
you
a
see
separate issue, though. I'm trying to say that the ways body positivity suggests people deal with body issues and trauma is an oversimplification. And it has to do with things like intuitive eating principles that get misrepresented by influencers.
Okay.
I guess I
can-
missed
I
this
can definitely
culture,
agree
this
with that.
messaging.
Well, then,
It must be strong in
unfortunately,
this
you and I
community.
are so far on the same page.
Well, no, I think, well, the way I see it is that body positivity is actually the bridge between health experts and anybody else, really.
Explain it.
Because
that.
I think that if I go to a doctor, it should be empowering for me to talk about my body.
Of course.
However, when
Not always. I mean, you want to be given direction. You want to be given answers. But to be empowered sometimes, that's not what you need. I mean, I guess you want to be empowered by choice. I'm on the fence by that statement. I'm on the fence. Need more info.
I usually speak to a health expert, it's really not. I'm really more just afraid that they're going to speak to me in a way that degrades my body and makes me feel that shame that you've mentioned. Shame.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm back on my original point. Yeah, sometimes you kind of got to, because if whatever you've been doing up until the point you walked in the doctor's office hasn't worked, and if that's been body positive, it's like, well, I'm trying to will myself into this and I'm happy with who I am, but you're going to see a medical professional because either you're getting extreme side effects that you need to now address, or you're obviously not happy with what you are because you're trying to get assistance because you want to be something else and it's not working. So I think shame has a place. You need to be careful with it. It has to be measured, but people respond differently. Some people need positive reinforcement. Some people need negative reinforcement. And there's a balance of those two, right? It's carrot and stick. When they're doing good, give them the carrot, literally a carrot, not a chocolate, just a carrot. Sometimes they need the stick and say, hey, fat boy, what happened? Last week, you were 19. This week, you 120. What the fuck, right? Sometimes you have to balance that one versus the other. I think there is a place for shame. I think that sometimes societal shame, it's not good. It does create harm. But I mean, sometimes it does create change as well. So it's hard to say that it's always wrong when sometimes it can be conditionally right. I'm torn. This is why blanket statements are so challenging to deal with, because like, is something always wrong? Well, contextually, sometimes there is a place for certain behaviors, as long as it is done the right way, with medical guidance, with a supportive attitude of, I want what's best for you. But to do that, I need you to understand that where you are at right now is dangerous, and the choices that you have made have brought you there, and that you are creating a risk to yourself. And I need you to take ownership of that. And sometimes feeling that moment of shame, to then maybe be empowered by the fact of, now I know this, now I get it, now I know the outcome, now I know the penalty if I don't do this, so now I'm going to make the change. Don't know.
Shame is not a motivator. It really turns people away, whereas the body positivity.
Do you know what's funny about that? That it's never a good motivator. How many gym memes have you seen amongst the boys that when a dude gets his heart absolutely ripped out of his chest, the meme is, see you at the gym, bro, right? There's truth to that, because a lot of boys, lads, dudes, men, when we get crushed, we need something to throw ourselves into. And I think that one of the most positive versions of that is getting back to the gym. I think that getting your heart broken can be a powerful motivator. I think seeing your dad die of a condition that was completely avoidable would be a hell of a motivator. And shaming you in a way or making you feel guilt or negative emotion to drive you towards, I don't want to feel that shit ever again, is a powerful motivator. It's not for everyone, but there's no denying for some people that lights a fuel in people's fire. That, you know, a kid that was bullied, like the first time I got bullied real bad in front of people and was embarrassed as shit at school. I'd done nothing wrong. I got my ass kicked. Anyone here surprised watching this? Going, well, he was a prick. No, I was a prick. However, I never wanted to feel that helpless ever again, right? So I went into martial arts, I got fit, I did all of those things when I was a kid, and that put me on a better path. Do I wish that the motivating thing had been a more pleasant experience? Of course. But there is no denying that certain people or certain negative motivators can absolutely drive people towards a positive outcome in some cases.
Movement teaches people to have the kind of confidence they need to make choices for themselves.
Teaching you that?
When you look at yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm gross, I don't deserve to be, you know, alive. To, like, some people get to that extent, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll get there.
When you do that to yourself, that is not going to motivate you to then go make the choices that I think we all know are healthy.
I know I shit on personal experiences, but this was me. It was that thought in my head where I went, what did I just think? Did I really think about doing that? Did I really just think about doing that? Like, I knew that we were in a bad place, but I just thought about that I thought that maybe it would be better and easier if I wasn't here. Holy shit, that's the cliff, boys. We're too close. Time to step back. Time to get a parachute. We need help, right? I disagree using my own example. I think that those thoughts and self-awareness, you should be scared of it. You know, I think if you feel that thought, I'm hoping more people recognize that as the cry for help, but I know a lot don't. I mean, I've seen it up close. So again, it's a contextual thing. I agree in principle apart what she's saying, but personal experience says that, you know, to say it's never a thing, right? Not necessarily. That's what motivated me to get one attempt at being healthy. I've failed many times since, and I'm sure I'm going to get a little bit of progress, and I'm sure I have some little failures along the road. But next year when I'm on this channel with 1 million subscribers and jacked, remind me of this moment.
For us.
Totally agree.
Which doesn't...
Then what's the next step, though, dude?
I think that's what we're here
Just
to,
looking in
to
the
speak
mirror
about.
and
I
saying,
think that's
actually, I'm healed.
So
It is kinda
that's
dumb.
not what body
Exist inside of
positivity.
me.
That's not what body positivity is. Body positivity is promoting the healing of said wounds.
How?
By
This is where I'm
finding-
telling you, it's an oversimplification.
It's not though.
Tell me
because
how.
you're- Because
How
by
is it
telling-
going to heal you, buddy?
By telling
looking
people
in the
that-
mirror and
by
saying,
looking
I
in
no
the
longer
mirror
think
and
so?
saying these shameful things to yourself,
Yes.
you already know that it degrades you, and you're not going to want to do the things that.
See, here's the thing. This is going to encourage you to not change because, you know, it's fine. I'm going to heal the trauma, but that trauma, whatever it was, that's associated with the weight that's making you feel like that in front of the mirror, if you continue the same behaviors, you're going to experience that again. The person calling you fat in the street, you missing out on a job, you watching someone hit on your best friend instead of you because that guy's jacked and you're not, right? Those events are going to keep repeating if you don't make the changes. So you could use this as a motivator to step back from the cliff and to make the different choices. Or you can say, I'm in this moment. So what I'm going to do is I got myself to this point where I'm having that darker thought, where I'm feeling this terrible about myself in the mirror. So my best solution is to change nothing, is to just feel good about where I am now. That I can't see that being a relatively successful movement. I can't see that having a good outcome for the person involved.
Most
then
people-
what comes after deciding not to beat yourself up? We're both on the same page there. Now
I
get
think
below the tip of your
we're
iceberg.
seeing different perspectives of the same page, right? And that's why I do believe that body positivity is the bridge that we all need.
Tell me
in order-
what comes after. The moment you decide you're not going to say that shit in the mirror anymore, then what?
Yeah, good
Then
point.
I should be able to consult health experts that are also body positive towards my body.
No one's saying not
Instead-
to.
Okay, so tell us who the health experts are that are body positive. Because if I should be able to go to a doctor
define
or
what you want when you say body positive, what kind of health expert are you looking for? I know a million doctors, and all of them would love to help somebody, whether
but
they're...
what is help? Is help saying you need to get your ass in the gym, you need to restrict your
You
eating,
tell me
whatever.
what help is for you when you go to that
That's what
doctor.
I think everybody should have the opportunity and confidence to do, and that's what body positivity is teaching people. It's not teaching people that they're perfect in the mirror and that they don't deserve to have the courage to change.
You still haven't given me a how. All you're telling
What
me
is,
is...
I think we all
I
are
don't
here to
look-
figure out how, because nobody has the answer.
That is...
So, I mean, what do they want in the physician? They want to say, hey, look, you're beautiful. You're perfect just the way you are. And look, perfection, sometimes there can be too much. You know what I mean? You're making other people feel bad by just how much perfect there is of you. So I think if we want to make other people feel better, sweetie, that what we should do is we should make you a little bit smaller perfect, you know, because then other people won't feel bad. And then that way it makes space, you know, it makes space for other people to be perfect around you. You're making space. So, you know, you're perfect, beautiful the way you are, but maybe we can make like a little bit less perfection. You know what I mean? I don't really know where this goes. Like, I mean, how do you tell someone you are physiologically unhealthy in a positive way? So, well, the good news is you're not dead. Let's start there. You've done real well that at your age, still walking the earth. To be honest, I'm shocked, right? You're defying science right now. This is actually incredible, right? You're blowing my mind right now. The fact that you have diabetes, cholesterol issues, you've obviously had a heart attack somewhere in the last 27 days because I can see your EKG is all over the place. You're a walking miracle, son. But I prefer we don't keep tempting the odds. Let's fix this. I don't know how you, I don't know how to have this conversation without taking the piss, because it's impossible to do. Like, if your entire ideology, self-confidence, worth is tied into not being given a negative medical diagnosis, I don't know how to help them. I really don't. I don't know what they want, because to say, I don't want you to make me feel bad. How do I make you feel good about being where you are when I need you to change everything that you're doing right now? Well, not everything, but you need to change your eating, your exercise. Or if you don't want to do any of that, I need to give you your options and just say, look, if you want to do something, I mean, I guess you could say, look, I'm really proud of you for taking this step. You could start there. I feel proud of you for making this choice because it's hard, but I want you to know that it's not an easy path from here. This is why I could not have been a doctor. I thought about it, guys. I love medical science so goddamn much, but dealing with people and their trauma, and God forbid I should ever have had to have treated a kid that died, it would have broken me in 1,000 pieces. I could never have done it. I am far too much of an emotional weakling to deal with that. But yeah, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you treat this. You know what I mean? There has to be a willingness to change. And if you're saying, well, I don't want to change anything, but I need you to make it all feel good, as a doctor, you would be doing harm. And like the Hippocratic Oath in America is do no harm. How do you do no harm to someone physiologically when mentally they're not ready to go there? It's tough, man. It's tough.
Not true. Many people have the answer, sweetheart. Psychoanalysts have the answer.
I'm sorry, I don't like to be called sweetheart when we're like debating.
Okay, forgive me.
But
many people have the answer. And
okay, so but you believe you have the answer, and you believe that somehow body positivity is not involved in bettering yourself.
I think it is, but it's incremental steps along the way. I think it is the first time you go to put on a pair of pants and it falls off you and you go, let's go. You know what I mean? You're still fat, but you go, I'm going to need a new pair of pants, right? And then now when I go looking for pants, because for me for a little while, there was only like 2 stores anywhere near my house. Shirts were okay, but pants, nightmare. Because I've always had, fit or fat, the quads of a Clydesdale horse, right? I could pull a tractor, no problem, right? Fat or fit. The problem is when you add fat on top of that, it's ridiculous, right? It is like trying to clothe the back half of a rhino. It doesn't work out. The first time that I knew I didn't have to go back to that, as long as I don't rebound that weight, that I could just go to any store. And yep, I'm still looking for the Ray in the back for the X's of L's, but it felt real good. That was a body positive moment. And it was that carrot that I needed to go, this is working. This is number one. You haven't seen someone for a while. You're looking good, man. You know, at the gym, someone sort of gives you a smile on the way past. It's like, I've known that person for ages. They've never winked at me. It may have nothing to do with that. Maybe they're just having a fun day as well. But you sort of go, yeah, this feels good. You know what I mean? I think body positivity as the reward for getting healthy and those little moments along the way, incredibly important to encourage you to keep going. But to say that it can be a replacement for those things, which I think is the example in a lot of the cases being made, not all the time. I think body positivity absolutely has a place, but not celebrating negative health.
I think that's contradictory. I really do.
I don't see how. I think that there are absolutely experts that have the answer, and it's more than platitudes.
So what is the answer then to you? If it's not
getting treatment with a person who's gone to school and
Science.
specializes in
that
this,
would be
who
great
will
if you
be
feel
able-
welcomed and comfortable in that person's
that
space.
There are many experts in the world that would be welcome.
Okay, but
especially ones that specialize in this category of medicine.
But
Bullshit
in this
flag,
category
son.
of medicine, if there's not room for body positivity, then you're
I didn't say that's not the claim, is that there's not room. I said it oversimplifies.
It
There's
oversimplifies.
room. It
Are you saying
oversimplifies.
it oversimplifies people's trauma?
No, I'm telling you, it oversimplifies the complexity and the depth of these types of disorders, whether it's anorexia, whether it's bulimia, whether it's binge eating disorder.
I feel like
whether
Jillian might have
somebody is
won over a few
eating-
people in this
and
crowd.
Summer was not referring to you. Somebody's eating because, let's say, they were molested. And now
But
they...
okay, but you saying
Yeah,
you
the
bringing
fact
up
she's going to the extremes. I mean, yeah, sometimes that is the case, but I don't think you need that traumatic thing to kick off just
somebody's
eating way
like
too many
eating because
cheeseburgers
they were
way too
molested. I
often.
mean, most people. That's not why like necessarily people are eating.
But that's what the claim is about. It is
But-
about the fact that people who have disordered eating and trauma, I think the body positivity movement with things like intuitive eating specifically, oversimplify and can actually give bad advice.
But the fundamentals
Okay,
of the
pause. Been voted out by the majority.
Thank you.
So look, I feel like there's a lot of repetition starting to come, and there's a lot of this section left about that. So I mean, feel free to watch it in your own time, ladies and gentlemen. If you, I mean, it's a great debate. I mean, I think that the problem when you get a lot of these things, the same people coming through and trying to defend from the same movement, the same points keep made over and over and again, right? The last area that they go through at the end seems to be all about what do they actually say here? It's about shame.
Tactics or who
Oh, like shame tactics. So shame is far more dangerous than body positivity is the claim brought forward by Marcy, who's on the screen here. So rather than listen to the whole thing, I'm just going to give some thoughts. This video's gone on for ages, guys. I appreciate you made it for too long. Let me comment on this and then we'll wrap it up. Shame is far more dangerous than body positivity. That's a real big yes and no. I'd probably lean more on yes. I think that shame and the suppression of shame is incredibly dangerous. I have had lost friends and family to that, where their pride and their unwillingness to feel that shame in the eyes of people they love was so overwhelmingly terrifying that there was a door that they felt was easier to walk through that ended their lives forever. And we didn't know why. We were all in shock until later when, you know, you'd find social media or you would find a letter that explained where they got to. They were in a hole so deep that they felt like they couldn't get out of it. Now, it had nothing to do with body issues. It was, you know, life stuff. But the shame of what they went through, which is why I'm quite an advocate for men's mental health. And I know that in 2026, you're not allowed to have conversations about men's rights and men's well-being because it, you know, apparently takes the spotlight off far more important things. But the reality is, you know, we haven't been great as a species, dudes, of dealing with our own shit when it comes to that. And shame is a big one. You know, I think that shame can be incredibly dangerous, and I've seen it kill people. I also think that unhealthy body positivity can do the same thing. You know, I think that if we measured it in a pure metric, shame probably is more dangerous. I'd say in general, if you put it all the way across the entire societal spectrum of shame versus body positivity, shame is going to take out more than the body positive. However, both of these behaviors can be incredibly dangerous. Both of these behaviors or tactics can be beneficial in the right way, with the right person, at the right time. So we need to find a balance. So look, I think that this has been a pretty hefty debate on a lot of facts versus feelings. And in this modern era where there is so much distrust of the average person to medical professionals, I think COVID really pushed a lot of people away from, you know, traditional medicine because unfortunately, you know, some of the pharmaceutical companies presented false narratives about data. And then our governments did exactly the same thing, that, you know, people can hold up these examples now and just say, well, look at the science, look where that got you. Or they can say, well, the same science has been around for ages and we still all got diabetes, so that's not working. You can all draw these false conclusions. Bad science has never been more prevalent. Like, there are tens of thousands of medical papers published every year. Most of them are not worth the paper you could wipe your ass with. They're really not. Some are fantastic randomized control studies, well-funded, well-researched, well-powered. So misinformation is everywhere. There's entire industries, there's entire brands built on this. Influencers have taken over as trusted sources, and parasocial relationships between people watching stuff like this and people lying to them for profit. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how that's taken over, and now it's casting down. People are walking into doctors' offices going, listen, bro, now it's okay to ask for a second opinion because doctors are not infallible either. Doctors will fuck up. Some doctors are dicks and will make you feel way worse than they need to. Find a different doctor. I'm not saying that if you keep going to every doctor and they keep going, but he called me fat, right? Yeah, that's his job, because you're kind of falling into that camp and we need to fix it, right? For your own health, for your own longevity. The reality is, I think the bulk of people out there want the best for themselves. And I truly still want to believe, despite a lot of the evidence out there in 2026, I think that a lot of people want the best for most other people that haven't done anything to them. I think they want the best for people around them. I think a lot of these things come from a good place. I think the delivery can be shit. I feel like there is some dishonesty sometimes. But honestly, when you start to say in this trapped little pigeonhole cult that this is the only way to do things, and you're not going to be flexible to hear new facts, new figures, and adapt your opinions over time, that's where you fall in a trap. And that's why I love seeing and reacting to stuff like this in real time, because I hope that you can hear me sitting back, and not that I'm, you know, anything to be held up, but I like to think if I've got one strength in myself as a person, it is seeing something and going, let me line that up against all the information I already have and all the opinions I have on this topic. Do I think this is enough to alter my opinion on that? Yes or no? Maybe. Yes, no, fine. And then I evolve my opinions. And I'm not scared to say when I'm wrong, when I have been wrong. It'll suck. It'll be hard. I'll do it through gritted teeth. But I think it's an important skill that we need to celebrate in people, that they're willing and open to listen to new facts and new science and new opinions. And it's healthy to have these conversations. I mean, I learned a lot about the body positivity movement and apparently some of the narratives that they have within, which probably makes me disagree with parts of it more. But then again, I think that there is an importance to mental health. You know, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for therapy when you need it, and never, ever, ever be scared to ask for help. I think that there are definitely valuable lessons to take away from that. But overall, we only got one body, right? We all mess up sometimes. I've messed up more than most. I'm a chunky boy right now, okay? Le chonk. But I know that I need to fix it. I got 2 kids, man. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. If I die, then our family is fucked and it will be my fault. So I have to fix it, right? So everyone has a different motivator. This is our temple. We got to try and take care of it the best we can. Bits fall off sometimes. We re-glue, we rebuild, we try again. But folks, what did you think of this debate? I encourage you to go and watch the whole thing. These guys at Jubilee do a fantastic job. I wish I'd come across these things earlier, because I think it's awesome where you have a theory. This is like original scientific method stuff. I have a hypothesis. Challenge me, right? Force me to evolve it. And if you're still standing with the idea at the end of it, then you've kind of reinforced that steel and you can build something on it, a science, an opinion, an idea, or make it better. So what did you think of this argument? Like, which side are you on? Am I right? Am I wrong? Was Jillian right? Was she wrong? Were these strangers right? Were they wrong? Is there a combination, hot medley of these things that's the right answer? I don't know. What's your experiences? I mean, if you're happy and comfortable enough talking about them, bring them to the comments or send me an email. Happy to talk about it. So I had a lot of fun with this. I think if there's more Jubilees in future that have a great topic, I'll definitely check it out. You should do the same. Head over to the YouTube channel. I'll put the link to this video down below. If you did enjoy me talking absolute nonsense for, I'm assuming, well over 2 hours at this point, please feel free to hit a like, a subscribe, notifications bell, and I really hope that you'll join me on the next one. Cheers.